Chapter 88. Boom. The raging flame swallowed the tree trunk along with the tree spirit, turning it into a pile of burning ashes. The first level of the 7 planets' profound energy combined with the true dragon primordial fire indeed had unimaginable destructive power. Even Lin Muyu was shocked by the power of his attack. He was only a 3rd level Earth Realm cultivator, but the power of this attack was much stronger than the Heaven Realm's Qin Yin, Qin Lei, and the others. The moment the tree spirit turned into ashes, the entire Forbidden Mother Tree also lost its life force. The fluffy tree suddenly collapsed, turning into a pile of soft dead matter, and the sap that symbolized life flowed. Ah! Qin Yin let out a miserable groan in the grass not far away. Lin Muyu rushed over and helped her up. "Your Highness, are you all right?" Qin Yin's shoulder was injured, and fresh blood soaked through her clothes. It was obvious that the attack from the vine was too strong, and Qin Yin didn't defend well. Quickly taking out a bottle of healing medicine and passing it to Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu said, "Heal your Highness, I'll go see Big Brother Qin Lei." Okay. When she arrived at Qin Lei's side, she saw Qin Lei sitting on a rock at the side with one leg crossed. He clenched his teeth and pulled out the thorny vine from his leg. Fresh blood flowed out, but he did not make a single sound. This Qin Lei was indeed a man of iron bones. Lin Muyu passed over a bottle of healing medicine and said, "Big Brother Qin Lei, this is a high-quality healing medicine. Hurry up and use it. This kind of healing medicine can repair injured tissues at the fastest speed and allow you to recover quickly." "And thank you." Qin Lei took the medicine and tore the clothes on his leg, pouring the medicine on the wound. At the same time he curled his lips and said with a smile, This Forbidden Mother Tree is a 7,000-year-old spirit beast. If you like it, this beast spirit is yours. I haven't cultivated to the level of advancement yet, so using this beast spirit is a waste." Lin Muyu smiled happily. "Then it would be impolite of me to refuse? Okay, go." He came to the side of the Forbidden Mother Tree's corpse, and quickly summoned the martial spirit gourd. The orange gourd immediately sensed the rich spirit energy and greedily absorbed it. Furthermore, Lin Muyu automatically opened the artifact refining cauldron's domain, and quickly refined the beast spirit. Squeak! After refining for nearly 30 minutes, the voice of the Forbidden Mother Tree came from within the beast spirit. It was resisting as if it was unwilling to become a sacrifice for the gourd. However, its resistance was a little powerless. Lin Muyu forcefully activated the 3rd level of the furnace, the earth fire, and quickly refined the essence of the beast spirit. Buzz! After the gourd was full of energy, it flickered. After absorbing the beast spirit of the Forbidden Mother Tree, the color of the gourd changed from orange to indigo. It was very beautiful. It had also absorbed the Forbidden Mother Tree's skill, Revival, which could greatly increase the recovery rate of life. Lin Muyu could even feel the vitality in her blood. The wound on her shoulder felt numb and itchy, as if the wound was slowly healing itself. Have you refined the skill?" Qin Lei asked. He nodded his head. "The Forbidden Mother Tree's skill seems to be rebirth, and I refined it into revival. I'm afraid my recovery speed will be surprisingly fast in the future." "Congratulations." Qin Lei held onto the thunder split blade and said with a smile, "I never thought that a Forbidden Mother Tree would actually injure the 3 of us. Only Xiaoxi is not injured at all." Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. "That's probably because I hid further away?" Lin Muyu said happily. "This is a good thing. Xiaoxi, your cultivation is the lowest among us. Only by hiding further away can we focus on fighting. That's how it should be." Tang Xiaoxi pouted her lips. "But I also have the dream of becoming a strong ranker. Being with a group of abnormally strong fellows like you has dealt a huge blow to my confidence." Qin Yin stood up and said with a smile, "Let's find a place to rest for a while. Then go look for the dragon bones?" Qin Lei said, "Since we've entered the dragon's tomb, then there's no need to be too anxious. We're all injured. I suggest that we rest for a night to recuperate, and enter the depths of the dragon's tomb tomorrow. How about it?" Lin Muyu nodded her head. Agreed. All right. The 2 beauties also nodded their heads one after another. After setting up camp by the side of the stream, Lin Muyu found some hay and made it into a big bed. After that, she found some firewood. Tang Xiaoxi fetched some water to cook, while Qin bandaged her own wounds and asked with a smile. Your aura has already changed. Did you step into the heaven realm after refining the beast spirit? Yes. Lin Muyu suppressed the ecstasy at the bottom of her heart and lightly opened her palm. Immediately, she spat out milky white dou qi instead of innate qi. This dou qi merged with the lightning elemental sprite in the air and evolved into the power of lightning with crackling sounds. Furthermore, it was a power of lightning that was even stronger than before. After stepping into the heaven realm, the characteristics of his power had already changed. The result of innate qi turning into dou qi was that the destructive power of the 4 elemental imperial swords and the true dragon primary fire had also increased by a large margin. How do you feel now? Qin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, raised her head to look at the starry sky and said, I have a feeling that I can already be considered as an expert now. Your Highness, please don't laugh at me. However, Qin couldn't help but burst into laughter and said, You have always been an expert. Moreover, you are a gold star sparring master of the sanctum. This kind of status in the empire has always been outstanding. Haven't you realized it yourself? Lin Muyu smiled and sat beside Qin. Listening to the babbling of the stream, she said, Your Highness, how many experts do you think there are in this land? More than ours. Qin was stunned. She looked at the vast forest in the distance with some fascination and said with a smile, I don't know about this, but as far as I know, there are only a few sanctuary-level experts. As for the god-level experts, it seems that there are only 2 of them in the entire continent. Moreover, they have been in seclusion for many years. Actually, there used to be quite a number of god-level and sanctuary-level experts on the continent. However, after a battle in Lingdong hundreds of years ago, these people seem to have all disappeared. Oh. Lin Muyu was surprised. Your Highness, can you tell me in detail? I don't know the specific situation at that time. These things can only be known from ancient books, and it is difficult to distinguish the truth from the falsehood. However, there used to be quite a number of god-level experts on the continent, such as my ancestor, Qin, the founding emperor of the Qin Empire. He was a god-level expert who had cultivated to the pinnacle of cultivation. However, they all suddenly disappeared hundreds of years ago. No one knows where they went. The most widespread rumor is that they all ascended to the heavenly realm and went to another plane. As she said that, Qin moved her red lips and smiled with great yearning. Actually, I am also looking forward to the day I can ascend to the heavenly realm and prove the heavenly Tao. Lin Muyu naturally didn't dare to say that Qin had already died, but the shock in her heart was very strong. Could it be that Qin had led hundreds of experts from the human world to chase after the 7 luminaries demon emperor hundreds of years ago? And in the end, when she transmigrated here, she coincidentally transmigrated to the 18 levels of purgatory, and saw the scene of them and the 7 luminaries demon emperor both suffering great losses? Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face under the moonlight, Lin Muyu couldn't bear to tell her that these god-level experts were all dead, so she grinned and said, I also look up to Xiaoyao who went to the heavenly realm. That's right. Qin said with a smile. It's just that we have to live in the present. What I have to do is to inherit the empire, and what you have to do is to cultivate hard and become a great expert to protect the empire, right? That's right. After eating dinner and cultivating for a while, Qin and Tang Xiaoxi went to bed early. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Lei, after discussing for a while, he would keep watch for the first half of the night, while Qin Lei would keep watch for the second half of the night. When it was the second half of the night, they laid down and could finally rest for a while. Closing their eyes, they quickly fell asleep. After an unknown period of time, a ruthless voice suddenly sounded beside their ears. Stinking brat. In the dream, a black figure appeared in the chaotic space. Lin Muyu stood under a ray of sunlight and reached out to pull out the burning prairie sword, but she realized that there was nothing beside her. The shadow in the darkness got closer and closer. She couldn't see its face, but Lin Muyu knew who it was. 7 luminaries demon emperor. You're just a ghost, what else do you want? Ha 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 ha. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's expression was very sinister as he said angrily. Brat, you live in your body. Do you think you can steal my 7 luminaries' profound energy? Dream on. With that said, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor rushed over crazily, holding countless stars in his hands, and shouted, "Go to hell! 7 luminaries star transformation." Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the dream, only to realize that it was a dream, but it didn't seem to be a complete dream. It was too real. He could feel the irresistible sharpness of the 7 luminaries' star transformation. Morning Mu. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi was cooking breakfast. She smiled and said, "Eat more later, we'll try to find the dragon tendon vine in the morning." Qinin was more attentive and asked, "Did you have a nightmare?" I guess so." He smiled slightly, shook his head and said, "Maybe I was too tired during the day." After breakfast, the 4 of them continued to explore the depths of the forest. The beautiful firefox scurried back and forth on Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder, looking around anxiously, occasionally letting out sharp whines. Tang Xiaoxi was a little surprised. "What's wrong?" The firefox couldn't speak, so it continued to whine in a certain direction. Tang Xiaoxi squinted her beautiful eyes and smiled. "I guess that the dragon bones we can find should be in that direction. Let's go." Since no one knew where to find the dragon bones, listening to the firefox's directions seemed to be a good choice, so the group of people followed the firefox's directions. After traveling for a few hours, the moment they crossed a small hill, Tang Xiaoxi was instantly stunned. Wow! Lin Muyu took a few quick steps and also saw a shocking scene. In the huge valley, there was a long body lying down. It looked like a dragon, but it wasn't a 5-clawed true dragon. Instead, it was a land dragon, but it could also be called a dragon. Found it. He rushed down the hill happily and jumped on the dragon's skeleton, only to see a bunch of green tree vines growing out of the spine, enshrouded in a faint dragon aura. He could not help but laugh. "Dragon tendon vine, we found the dragon tendon vine." But at this moment, an invisible aura spread out behind him. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned cold and she hurriedly shouted, "Mu, be careful." Whoosh! The cold air spread out quickly, blowing the dragon tendon vine, and causing it to whistle. For a moment, Lin Muyu was unable to move, as if her whole body was being controlled by the domain pressure, unable to move. Finally, the one who should come had come. Chapter 89. In the air, a gray-robed elder held a metal staff in his hand. His eyes were filled with ferocity as he stared straight at Lin Muyu. Layers of invisible qi shrouded Lin Muyu, making it impossible for her to move. This elder was even able to stay in the air for a long time as if he was a celestial being. Lin Muyu desperately resisted the opponent's power. She raised all the fighting energy in her body to its peak, causing the white battle robe behind her to flutter in the air. Suddenly, she opened her left palm and the power of thunder emerged. She pulled the burning prairie sword out of its scabbard. The moment the burning prairie sword was pulled out of its scabbard, it created an air current and tore a crack in the opponent's chi net. Rustle! Leaping nearly 10 meters away from the opponent's grip, Lin Muyu felt as if all the bones in her body were about to be torn apart. She turned around and looked at the elder in the air. Her eyes were stern as she said, "You are the one who crushed Zhang Weilong's tendons?" The person smiled. His eyes were full of calmness, as if the young man in front of him was already a dead man and would not pose any threat to him. "That's right, it's me. I am Ashen Crane. Greetings to your highness Qin Yin, young prince and princess Shi." Qin Lei raised his head and looked at the sky. He tightened his grip on the thunder split blade and said, "I've heard of your name, Senior Pale Crane. You're an ancestor of the Empire. But why did you hurt Zhang Wei? He is an instructor of the Divine Temple, a general of the Empire." Song Baiha sneered. "The Divine Marquis is the Imperial Advisor and has made countless contributions in the Battle of Liaobei. If not for the Marquis's contributions, would the Qin family have the world today? Now that the world is at peace, a small Divine Temple instructor dares to offend the Divine Marquis residents. Is he bullying the Divine Marquis residents? I, Songbaiha, am indebted to the Marquis residents. Making an enemy of the Divine Marquis residents is making an enemy of me." Qin Yin was startled. She had already guessed most of it. She leaped onto the dragon bones and stood beside Lin Muyu. The cold wind blew and the family cloak behind her gently fluttered. Then what is the purpose of Senior's visit today? Ha ha ha. The pale crane threw his head back and laughed. There are two people who have offended the divine Marquis residents. One is Zhang Wei, and the other is this criminal Lin Muyu who has changed his name to Linji. Today, I will show my loyalty to the Empire. I will kill this criminal and bring his head back to Lanyan City. Your Highness, please step aside. Don't hinder this old man from killing this audacious brat. However, Qin Yin abruptly spread her arms, her beautiful face filled with determination. Senior, you was wrongly accused for killing someone in Silver Fir City. I've already asked my royal father to pardon him, so there's no need for you to worry. Really? Song Baihe's expression turned cold as he sneered. Your Highness, you're the only legitimate heir of the great Qin Empire, and you're also the future and hope of the clan. However, if Princess Qin Yin accidentally dies in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest, do you think anyone would know that I'm the one who did it? If Her Highness Qin Yin and young Duke Qin Lei, the two heirs of the clan who have awakened the god-binding chains, both die in the dragon-seeking forest, who has the highest chance to become the next emperor? Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She held the burning prairie sword horizontally in front of Qin Yin and growled. Song Baihe, your target is me. Don't vent your anger on Her Highness Yin. Qin Yin's voice was very gentle. Can't you see? The pale crane came here with no intention of letting any of us leave alive. Qin Lei gripped the thunder-splitting blade tightly, his eyes filled with anger. Song Baihe, you despicable person. Do you know what you are doing? You are betraying the Empire. So what if I betray the Empire? Song Baihe sneered. If the Qin family can do it, then so can others. What's the point of saying so much? None of you will live today. Buzz. As the other party was speaking, Lin Muyu's martial soul had already been activated. The burning prairie sword turned into a flash of lightning and attacked the pale crane's abdomen. This style was completed in the blink of an eye. It was shockingly fast. However, the other party was a sacred-level expert after all. Song Baihe raised his metal staff fearlessly and waved it suddenly. With a bang, the staff collided and actually forced the shocking thunder wild waves attack back. The burning prairie sword spun rapidly in the air and fell into the distance. Go! Lin Muyu roared angrily. She opened her left hand and produced streaks of lightning to absorb the burning prairie sword. Her right hand shook from her waist and took out 4 flying daggers. With a schwa-schwa-schwa sound, she threw them out continuously. They turned into streaks of cold light. At the same time, on the other side, Qin Lei raised the thunder-splitting blade that was flickering with lightning and attacked. A few golden god-binding chains wrapped around his body. Song Baihe landed on the dragon bones and laughed loudly. Suddenly, a fiery light rose from his body and a fiery red staff came out of his body. It was his tool martial soul. The Netherfire Staff. It was an extremely powerful second-grade martial soul. Holding the metal staff in one hand and the Netherfire Staff in the other, Song Baihe laughed loudly and said, Interesting, interesting. The Qin family's god-binding chains and a mediocre green-gourd martial soul. I want to see how far you can struggle. Pung! The Netherfire Staff smashed onto the wall of the gourd with a dull thud. Immediately, the black tortoise shell was shattered and a heavy vibration was felt from the dragon scale wall. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword and leaped up without a care. She slashed down with the sword as one. In the midst of his laughter, Song Baihe's Netherfire Staff struck out again. A strong doqi exploded and sent Lin Muyu flying with the sword. Lin Muyu had already suffered internal injuries. At the same time, the metal staff drew an arc in the air and with a prung, it blasted away Qin Lei's thunder-splitting blade. The killing intent in Song Baihe's eyes exploded, and he suddenly rushed forward. Pooh! When Qin Lei lowered his head to look, he realized that the sharp end of the metal staff had already pierced into his abdomen. Fresh blood was flowing out. Young prince, don't blame me. As he spoke, Song Baihe's doqi suddenly spat out. The sharp end of the long staff immediately swirled with streams of biting cold doqi. It looked like Qin Lei's internal organs were about to be completely crushed. At this moment, a cold wind attacked from the back of his head. It was Qin Yin's sharp sword. Song Baihe hurriedly dodged to the side. However, he did not expect Qin Yin's graceful figure to bypass his arm like a dragon. She opened her palm and the power of the golden god binding chains exploded in front of Song Baihe's chest. Pung! Golden light shot out in all directions. This attack was unable to severely injure Song Baihe, because the dou qi protecting his body was too thick. There was a great disparity in strength between the two. No matter how strong Qin Yin's god-binding chains were, it was unable to truly injure him. You're courting death. Song Baihe suddenly waved the nether fire rod in his left hand, heavily bombarding the god-binding chain's defense in front of Qin Yin's chest. In an instant, the god-binding chains were shattered. Qin Yin retreated several steps, her face pale as she knelt on the dragon bones. Behind her, Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of raging flames. Song Baihe hurriedly waved his metal staff to disperse the flames. The Seven Seas Tang Sect's raging flame martial soul was not easy to deal with. Gigi. The fire fox on Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder shouted crazily, as if it was facing a great enemy. Xiaoyin. Just as Tang Xiaoxi was about to rush forward, she saw Qin Yin suddenly wave her hand behind her. Dou qi rippled out, attacking Tang Xiaoxi until she retreated several steps. She did not allow Xiaoxi to save her. On the ground, Qin Lei's abdomen had been injured, but he still held the thunder-splitting blade. He roused the dou qi in his body, causing streaks of lightning to ripple along the grass. He wanted to continue fighting with his life, but at this moment, a black shadow flashed past. With a poochie sound, Song Baihe's metal staff pierced through Qin Lei's chest, directly nailing him to a huge dragon bone. Quietly wait for your death, little prince. This is the best ending for you. Song Baihe laughed coldly. Carrying the nether fire rod, he walked step by step towards Qin Yin. His eyes carried a strong sense of pride as he laughed loudly. Your Highness, if you did not leave the city, under the protection of hundreds of royal guards, who in this world could kill you? But you just had to come here to seek death. Don't blame this old man. The dou qi in Qin Yin's body had already been disrupted by the nether fire rod. She knelt there and raised her head to look at Song Baihe. But there was not a trace of fear on her face. Shua. Just as Song Baihe raised the nether fire rod, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed from the side. It was the burning prairie sword wrapped in lightning. Again? Song Baihe suddenly knocked away the long sword, but just as the burning prairie sword was spinning around, it was grabbed by a hand. Lin Muyu roared, and the indigo light of his martial soul shone brightly. The entire dragon bones were trembling, and gourd vines grew out from the dragon bones and surged towards Song Baihe. It was the root entanglement skill. His figure blended into the sword light, and the sacred dou qi caused his battle robe to flutter. Lin Muyu seemed to have concentrated all his strength into the long sword, and streams of true dragon essence fire surrounded the long sword. His body was in midair, and the long sword flipped rapidly. This was already his strongest attack. Dragon Flame Spiral Break. Song Baihe squinted his eyes. He could feel the sharpness of this move, and couldn't help but exclaim, "Good lad, you do have some skills. No wonder old man Lei Hong thinks so highly of you." As he spoke, Song Baihe suddenly merged the nether fire rod into a ball of fire in front of his chest, and shouted, "Can this imperial sword technique of yours break my nether fire shield?" Pung. The spiral break that Lin Muyu gathered all the strength in his body struck the opponent's martial soul, and the flames scattered in all directions. The collision of the dou qi formed an extremely cold shockwave, and the impact was so strong that it uprooted the nearby small trees, and some of the larger trees were also broken. Qin Yin knelt there, holding on to the dragon bones. She raised her head, and her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu's swaying figure in the wind. Streams of blood flowed down her pure white temple cloak. Her eyes were filled with tears. The dragon flame spiral break was still dispersed, and the burning prairie sword was sent flying into the grass 100 meters away. Lin Muyu didn't even have the strength to use the power of the imperial sword technique to control the long sword to fly back. Is this your limit? Song Baihe sneered, and slowly walked forward. He raised his right palm, and his fingers formed an arrow, and pierced into Lin Muyu's chest. He laughed loudly. "I will let you die a worse death than Zhang Wei, ha ha ha." You stinking brat. SSSSS. Song Baiha's fingers pierced into Lin Muyu's chest inch by inch, and hot blood flowed down, splashing onto the pale dragon bones. However, Lin Muyu still stood there, not moving an inch. Why didn't you dodge? Song Baiha sneered. Lin Muyu's eyes were clear, and because of the pain her voice trembled slightly. Her Highness came to the dragon tomb for me. If you must kill her, then kill me first. Don't let me see her die for me with my own eyes. Chapter 90. Come out now. The pain in his chest seemed to have disappeared, but Lin Muyu roared angrily in his "Hi." At this moment, he really needed this power. Without the 7 luminaries' profound energy, how could he reverse the situation in front of him? Suddenly, a powerful force surged into his right arm. He could faintly feel the pain of all living beings. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and raised his right arm, punching Baihe's chest. Chaos of all life. Bam! Fighting energy burst out. With just one blow, Baihe's protective fighting energy was shattered. He looked at Lin Muyu with a pale face. What kind of power is this? Lin Muyu did not speak. He endured the pain in his chest and continued to roar in his heart. Leave the second stage to me. Hurry, leave the second stage to me. Now. In his "Hi," the black soul laughed loudly. You want to use my power? Dream on, you little brat. Weapon refining cauldron. Lin Muyu let out a furious roar. The artifact refining cauldron appeared in her sea of mind and unleashed the 3rd layer fire refining cauldron, the earth fire, which burned the 7 brilliance demon monarch's soul wildly. She yelled, "Give it to me at once." Cries of agony echoed endlessly. The 7 brilliance demon monarch seemed to be in more pain than Lin Muyu. He let out a mocking laugh while screaming, You're trying to use my power? Are you qualified? The 7 luminaries' dark force is powerful, but it requires an extremely strong physique to control it. How can your weak body control the 7 luminaries' dark force? However, wisps of energy still seeped into Lin Muyu's body from the depths of his soul. Accompanied by the faint wails of ghosts and gods, a mysterious power appeared in Lin Muyu's right arm once again. He did not hesitate to throw a second punch. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. The fist was surrounded by demonic energy. Song Baiha had already reacted. He quickly raised his left palm to block Lin Muyu's attack, but to his surprise he was unable to block it. Pung! The iron fist slid past the palm, but it still landed on Baihe's chest. There was a faint cracking sound of bones breaking. Baihe could no longer stand. He staggered back a few steps, and his blood-covered right palm was pulled out of Lin Muyu's chest. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, and looked up at Lin Muyu. There's a demon hiding in your body. Lin Muyu smiled bitterly as he knelt on the dragon bones. His hair had even started to turn white, and his entire body was aging rapidly. The power of the 7 planets' profound force was incomparably vast and mighty. How could his mortal body be able to control the strongest power in the world? After using the 7 planets' profound force twice in a row, the price he had to pay was the symbol of his life, aging. Qinin knelt there and looked at Lin Muyu kneeling on the ground in pain. His entire body was trembling, and his hair was white. Qinin instantly burst into tears. Don't. Tang Xiaoxi held the fire-smelting whip and rushed up the dragon bones with a swoosh. Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu knelt on the ground. He did not raise his head, but raised his right palm and slowly waved it, indicating that she should not provoke Baihe. Otherwise, it would only bring about death. Baihe's power was definitely above the 4 of them. You little bastard. Baihe stood up again and gathered the sanctuary energy around him. His fighting aura caused his gray robe to flutter. He raised his hand and grabbed the deathfire rod in his hand again. Step by step, he walked towards Lin Muyu and sneered. If I don't kill you today, I Baihe swear that I am not a human. However, at this moment, a series of sharp cries suddenly came from the sky. Furthermore, a faint voice could be heard. Princess Shi, I Chu am here. Chu is here. Tang Xiaoxi's tears flowed. Why are you only here now? Baihe shuddered as well. Chu's arrival was definitely not a good thing for him. After all, he had just stepped into the Saint Realm, while Chu had been in the Saint Realm for many years. Once Chu Chu discovered the situation here, he would definitely kill him. He couldn't afford to waste any time, or else he would definitely die here. At the thought of this, he let out a shrill cry and rushed into the forest without looking back. A heart-wrenching pain came from his abdomen and chest. Lin Muyu lay on the dragon's bones and vomited blood. In the blink of an eye, his pure white sanctuary battle robe was dyed red with blood. Tang Xiaoxi rushed forward and helped him up. Looking at his miserable appearance, Tang Xiaoxi's tears rolled down her cheeks. Mu, don't die, don't die. Grandpa Chu Chu will be here soon. Lin Muyu's breath was weak and his eyes were lifeless. He fell into Tang Xiaoxi's arms and did not move. You. Qinyin knelt on the ground and crawled over step by step. Her tears dripped onto the dragon's bones. You don't die. You. Right at that moment, they saw a miraculous scene. Lin Muyu's white hair was slowly turning black. His sagging skin also slowly became plump, and his breathing became much steadier. He coughed a few times and vomited another mouthful of blood. However, he opened his eyes and looked at the two beauties. I'm fine, I won't die. Quickly go and save big brother Qin Lei. Qin Lei was still nailed to the dragon's bones by the metal staff. There were two shockingly large holes in his chest and abdomen. However, when he saw that Lin Muyu did not die, he smiled miserably. You is fine, it's good that he's fine. Qinyin jumped down from the dragon's back and pulled out the metal staff to save Qin Lei. At the same time, she applied first-grade healing medicine on Qin Lei and Lin Muyu's wounds, and then applied some gold wound ointment. However, Lin Muyu's wounds were too big and could not be healed in a short period of time. Blood flowed nonstop and Tang Xiaoxi's eyes turned red as she cried again and again. Why isn't Master Chu Chu here yet? Qinyin asked. Tang Xiaoxi said, I had the fire fox cry out in order to attract Grandpa Chu Chu over. However, he must be very far away from here, or else he would have arrived a long time ago. Lin Muyu had also recovered a bit of her breath. She lay in Tang Xiaoxi's embrace and said with a smile, if Grandpa Chu Chu was really very close, he would have directly killed the ashen crane. Why would he waste his energy to shout from afar? Cough, cough. He coughed violently and fresh blood gushed out from the corner of his mouth once again. Qinyin hurriedly wiped away the fresh blood for him. Her tears turned into a smile as she said, it was Master Chu Chu's shout that saved our 4 lives. That's right. After a full 20 minutes, Chu Chu's figure finally appeared in the distance. He flew over like lightning and leapt onto the dragon bones. Looking at Lin Muyu and Qin Lei's miserable state, he couldn't help but frown and ask, what exactly happened? Tang Xiaoxi instantly burst into tears. She didn't even know how to explain her tear-stained face. What exactly happened? Your Highness. Chu Chu knelt on one knee on the dragon bones and bowed towards Qinyin. Qinyin nodded her head and indicated for him to rise. Do you still remember Grandpa Chu Chu, the #1 expert of the Divine Marquis Constabulary? Song Baiha? Chu Chu was stunned. That's an expert at the peak of the heavenly state. What happened to him? Song Baiha has stepped into the divine region. He was the one who wanted to kill us just now. What? Chu Chu's entire body trembled. Could it be that he doesn't know your Highness's identity? He knows, that's why he wanted to silence me. Qinyin appeared extremely calm. I came late to the rescue. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Chu Chu cupped his fists and said, Sir Chu Chu doesn't need to blame yourself. If it wasn't for your shout, I'm afraid we would have already died in the hands of Song Baiha. Qinyin said unhurriedly. Can you quickly help Brother Yu and Qin Lei take a look at their injuries? Yes. Chu Chu examined for a while and said, Lin Muyu's life is really tough. 3 of his ribs are broken and his heart is injured, but he's still alive. Little Prince's injuries are much lighter, his organs aren't injured. Tang Xiaoxi said, that's because Mu had just refined the beast soul of the Forbidden Mother tree not long ago and obtained the ability to recover. That's why his body's self-healing ability is stronger. So that's how it is. Chu Chu looked at Tang Xiaoxi and said with a smile, Princess Xi's cultivation has also improved greatly. Tang Xiaoxi wiped the tears on her face, but she was already smiling proudly with her breasts puffed out. Qinyin asked, Sir Chu Chu, why are you in the dragon-seeking forest? How did Xiaoxi know that you'll be here? Tang Xiaoxi said. I actually don't know, I just took a gamble. Actually, I've been guarding here all these years, Chu Chu said. Ah. Why? Qin was shocked. Chu Chu smiled and explained. Your Highness, this is the dragon's tomb in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Normally, no one will come here, and those who come must be here to steal all kinds of treasures. Unfortunately, there are no treasures here, only dragon bones, and they are not real dragon bones. However, there has been a person guarding the dragon's tomb for generations. When Chu Chu was 27 years old, he took over the responsibility of guarding the dragon's tomb from his master, so other than serving in the imperial capital and Seven Seas City, Chu Chu will always patrol around the dragon's tomb. Fortunately, I'm here, or else I would have made a huge mistake. So Grandpa Chu Chu is also in charge of guarding the dragon's tomb. Lin Muyu smiled. Then can I borrow some dragon tendon vines from here? There are many dragon tendon vines, you can do as you please. Chu Chu was very generous. Lin Muyu continued. Grandpa Chu Chu, this time we've been targeted by the pale crane. After I gather the herbs, you can come back to the imperial capital with us and protect Her Highness, and Xiaoxi on the way. Brother Qin Lei and I are already injured, so we can't continue to protect them. Yes. Chu Chu nodded heavily. After resting until night time, Lin Muyu's injuries had slightly improved, and she could move on her own. So, she used the burning prairie sword to cut the dragon tendon vines on the dragon bones. When the starlight shone on the dragon's tomb, the ground was glowing, which made him very surprised. It was the luminous grass. No one would have thought that the luminous grass and the dragon tendon vines would grow together. No wonder people on the mainland could not find the luminous grass, so it grew in a place like the dragon's tomb that was rarely visited by people. Chapter 91. After frantically collecting a lot of dragon tendon vine and luminous grass, Lin Muyu once again fell into a dilemma. She said sullenly, I've collected everything, but I'm still missing needlepoint birds. What should I do? Needlepoint birds. Qin smiled faintly. I've heard of it. It's a very small bird. What do you want needlepoint birds for? Bone muscle replenishment powder can't be mixed with water. It must be mixed with blood. The blood to be used is the blood of needlepoint birds. Lin Muyu looked up and said, Grandpa Chu Chu, do you know where to find needlepoint birds? Chu Chu pondered. Needlepoint birds only hunt at night. Their food is fireflies flying in the night sky. So we must find needlepoint birds in places with water. There is water in the dragon's tomb. We will camp by the water tonight. You guys have a good rest. I'll go catch some needlepoint birds. How many do you need? Lin Muyu thought about it and said, If we kill, we need 20. If we don't kill and only bleed, we need at least 50 needlepoint birds. Grandpa Chu Chu, you'll have to work hard and catch 50 needlepoint birds. Yes. Qin smiled faintly and said, It's a good thing that you doesn't want to kill. Ha, look at what your highness said. It's just that the needlepoint birds are too small. Otherwise, we can bleed them first and then roast them. Lin Muyu grinned. I feel so hungry when I talk about this. Qin raised her eyebrows and raised her nose slightly. She looked at him proudly with her beautiful eyes. It seemed that she had to reevaluate this guy. At night, they camped by a nearby stream. Chu Chu quickly caught enough needlepoint birds, and then sat quietly to watch Lin Muyu refine medicine. In fact, one of the main reasons why he was so eager to help was to let Lin Muyu teach him the formula of level 10 medicine refining, and Lin Muyu did not keep it to herself and passed it on. Anyway, Chu Chu's poor understanding of medicine refining would probably not be able to learn it. Lin Muyu continuously refined the medicinal essence of the dragon tendon vine and luminous grass, while Tang Xiaoxi and Qin used the sharp edge of their daggers to bleed the needlepoint birds. Each bird only let out a few drops of blood, and then they were released. The two of them fought to do this work, otherwise it would have been Qin Lei's turn to do it. If Qin Lei's knife went down, perhaps even an elephant would die, not to mention a pocket-sized bird like the needlepoint bird. Drops of fluorescent medicinal essence fell into the cup, and fused with the needlepoint bird's blood. Very quickly, there was a reaction, and a faint fragrance floated in the air. No one would have thought that these things fused together would have such a strange fragrance. After refining more than 20 bottles of muscle replenishing powder in one go, Lin Muyu handed a bottle to Qin Lei and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, drink this bottle." Qin Lei stared blankly. "My dragon tendon hasn't been broken, why would I drink this?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. The full name of muscle replenishing powder is muscle replenishing bone restoring powder. It has a very good healing effect on injuries of broken tendons and bones. You're so heavily injured, maybe your tendons and bones have been injured. Drinking a bottle is always good, lest there be any hidden injuries or disabilities in the future. Qin Lei received it and drank it in one gulp. Lin Muyu also drank a bottle. It hadn't been long since his ribs were reconnected. Originally, he would need to rest for at least half a month to recover, but with the effect of muscle replenishing powder, he would be as good as new in 3 to 5 days at most. She carefully put away the bottles of muscle replenishing powder. These muscle replenishing powder were the spirit medicine that could save Zhang Wei. After all, Zhang Wei was a martial artist. If he really couldn't practice martial arts, then perhaps his entire life would be ruined, and he would be better off dead. This night, with Chu Chu's protection, he could finally have a good sleep. He drowsily slept until dawn, and when he opened his eyes, he saw the sun rising in the east. He took a deep breath, inhaled and exhaled the purple spiritual power, only to feel that the fighting energy in his body was quickly abundant. This night's rest allowed him to recover at least 80% of his fighting energy. However, his injury was too serious, so it was not suitable for him to fight for the time being. Otherwise, the bandaged wound would not only reopen, the previous efforts of reconnecting the bones would also be wasted. Looking at his chest, a piece of white cloth was used as bandage. The white cloth was dotted with beautiful golden purple flowers. This was the skirt that Qin Yin tore off to bandage for him. He could even feel Qin Yin's delicate fragrance on it. He was probably the only one in the world who could receive such treatment. They set off at dawn. After leaving the range of the dragon tomb, they found a warhorse and gave one to Chu Chu to ride. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin shared the other horse. The 5 of them walked in the winding mountains. 2 days later, they entered the imperial area of the dragon-seeking forest. It was only a day's journey from the imperial capital. In the afternoon, when they were watering the horses, Lin Muyu took off the battle robe that was dyed red with blood and washed it in the stream. Streaks of blood flowed along with the stream. After washing it repeatedly, it was finally clean. Using a tree branch to poke it into the saddle, Tang Xiaoxi playfully opened her hands and used the high temperature of her martial spirit, the fire fox, to roast it. It was very quickly clean, but it was only clean on the outside. Lin Muyu's tight-fitting white undergarments and the armor of the holy temple were actually dyed red with blood. However, there was no way to wash it, so they could only leave it like this. Furthermore, the main reason for washing was because they were about to reach Lanyan City. As one of the guards of Her Royal Highness, he had to be mindful of the dignity of the royal family. On the other hand, Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe that was exactly the same as what Qin Lei was wearing. They were both white-robed imperial guards. The workmanship of this kind of white robe was even more exquisite. On it, there was even a purple flower embroidered with the empire's emblem, making it look dignified and elegant. In comparison, the armor of the holy temple looked even more like it was bought from a treasure chest. Luckily, Lin Muyu was born handsome, so it did not look out of place when she wore it. Late at night, they entered the vicinity of the royal hunting grounds. Qin Lei carried his blade and said with a smile, "Not long later, we should be able to see the imperial army camp led by Feng Jixing. It should not be more than 30 miles away from here. Shall we travel through the night?" Chu Chu nodded his head. "And all right." This time, Qin Lei walked at the front to clear the path, Chu Chu was behind him, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were in the middle, and Lin Muyu was at the very back, in charge of protecting the two beauties. It was another dark and windy night. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the forest was covered in darkness. Roars of tigers and wolves could be heard from afar. Qin Lei held the thunder-split blade in one hand and a torch in the other, and said, "Be careful, the mountainous terrain here is rugged. Don't let the war horses lose their footing." "Yes, I know," Qin Yin replied. But just at this time, there was a sudden sound of wind breaking. Whoosh! That was the sound of a cold arrow. Lin Muyu was very sensitive to this, because it was precisely this sound that caused him to suffer a fatal injury, and he almost lost his life. This sound was forever engraved in his mind. "Be careful!" When he shouted, Chu Chu had already leaped off the war horse. He opened his palm, and with a paw sound, he caught the cold arrow in the dark night. His gaze turned cold, and he said, "Who are you? Scram out here." But what answered him was an even more concentrated arrow. "Protect Her Highness!" Qin Lei shouted loudly. Lin Muyu quickly urged his horse to arrive in front of Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. He raised his hand and shouted in a low voice. The wall of the calabash blossomed with an indigo light, and the black tortoise shells slowly moved on the wall of the calabash, shooting out arrows one after another. Meanwhile, Qin Lei had already entered the forest with his blade in hand. With a low roar, purple lightning illuminated the surroundings, and killed a group of people who shot arrows. "Capture Qin Yin, the reward is 1,000,000 Jin Yin coins." It was unknown who shouted, but immediately after, many people carrying long swords rushed out from the forest. Every one of them wore a silver badge on their chest, and on it was the image of a sword. "People from the House of Chivalry?" Chu Chu muttered. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her teeth, and said indignantly, "Chu Chu, last time, it was these people from the House of Chivalry who almost killed me. This time, they actually dared to target Xiao Yin. This is too despicable. This House of Chivalry." Chu Chu smiled slightly. "Princess and Her Highness, please be at ease. Today with me Chu Chu here, no one can hurt you." As he spoke, Chu Chu suddenly opened his arms, and with a roar, he struck out with his palm. The light of the fire cauldron martial spirit exploded, and this palm actually transformed into a huge fire palm, blasting into the forest. Pung! Dozens of warriors from the House of Chivalry were killed one after another, and Lin Muyu was slightly stunned as she watched. No wonder people said that Chu Chu's palm technique was the best in the world, and it seemed that it was indeed so. Once Chu Chu made his move, the group of warriors were all shocked. Immediately someone cursed. "Damn it, which bastard sent back fake news? This is not Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others at all. Unexpectedly, even the white-robed Chu Chu is here. Quickly retreat, the operation is cancelled, or else all of us will die here." However, Qin Lei had already raised his saber, and was killing everywhere in the crowd, as if there was no one around. These people basically couldn't escape. "Capture one alive," Qin Yin said indifferently. "Yes, Your Highness." Qin Lei laughed loudly. At this moment, 3 sword-wielding warriors went around Chu Chu's position, and went straight towards Qin Yin. Each of them had their faces covered, and they shouted in a low voice, "Either capture Qin Yin, or kill Qin Yin, attack together." Qin Yin pouted. "These bastards who are not afraid of death. Don't, Your Highness doesn't need to do anything." Lin Muyu smiled slightly, and suddenly opened her right hand. Lightning flashed, and the long sword was suddenly unsheathed. Lightning lingered around the blade of the sword, and with a schwa sound, it broke through the air. Pu piu piu. Like a skewer of candied haws, it consecutively pierced through the bodies of the 3 assassins. This strike was really too fast, and those with lower cultivation were unable to dodge it. Lin Muyu raised her finger, and the long sword spun back, and with a kung sound, it entered the sheath, as if nothing had happened. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "This imperial sword technique is really too cool." Qin Yin nodded and agreed with a smile. Not long after, Chu Chu and Qin Lei returned. Qin Lei had killed dozens of people in a row, and was already panting, but he still had an assassin in his hand. He had already knocked the assassin out, and hung him directly on the horse. He said, "After we return to Lanyan City, we will interrogate him properly. I want to see what kind of bear's heart and leopard's heart this House of Chivalry has eaten to actually dare to lay their hands on Her Highness and the princess." Qin Yin nodded. "Yes, this matter should not be delayed. Let's quickly set off to meet up with General Feng." Yes. At about dawn, the Empire's war flags appeared indistinctly in the distance, and they finally arrived at the Imperial Army's camp. A war horse galloped over, and it was Feng Jisheng. Carrying a war knife, he elegantly flipped over the horse, and cupped his fists saying, Her Highness Princess, you are finally back. I was worried to death. As he spoke, he raised his head and smiled. Master Chu Chu, you are back too? Yes, General Feng has worked hard. Chapter 92. As noon approached, more than 2,000 imperial guards escorted Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Chu, and the others to Lanyan City. A row of cavalry quickly rushed out of the city. These people wore a very ferocious emblem on their arms. It was a golden eagle with its claws spread open. In the whole of Lanyan City, there was only one military branch that had this emblem, Military Police Battalion. Xiang Yu took the lead, holding a blood-colored spear. He walked forward, cupped his hands, and said with a smile, Her Highness Yin has returned safely. Xiang Yu has been ordered by His Majesty to welcome Her Highness Yin. Qin Yin smiled and said, Commander Xiang need not be so polite. Let's enter the city now. Yes. Xiang Yu slowly turned his horse around and followed behind Qin Yin with Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others. His eyes swept back and forth, and finally fell on Lin Muyu in the temple's battle robes. He couldn't help but smile and said, You are the only gold star sparring master of the temple, Lin Ji? Lin Muyu didn't know this Xiang Yu, so she nodded and said, Yes, my lord. Ha! Xiang Yu looked up and laughed, saying, You are so handsome. No wonder everyone says heroes come from the young. It seems that the future of Lanyan City depends on how Lin Ji and your generation do. Lin Muyu frowned, feeling that there was a hidden meaning in his words, but she didn't know how to continue. She cupped her hands and said with a smile, My lord, you are too kind. Hey, you are too modest. Xiang Yu said indifferently and didn't say anything else. At this moment, a group of people in the temple's battle robes galloped over, led by the Gold Star instructor Zheng Shanhe. He held a heavy shield in one hand, and his eyes searched the crowd. When he saw Lin Muyu, he couldn't help but smile in surprise and said, Lord Linji, you are back. Have you found the herbs? The great deacon sent me to pick you up. Lin Muyu spurred her horse out of the formation and said respectfully, Lord Zheng, the herbs have been found. I will go back to the temple with you. All right. Lin Muyu turned around and cupped her fists towards Feng Jixing and Qin Lei, then said, I still have a mission in the Divine Hall, so I'll be heading back first. Big Brother Feng, Big Brother Qin Lei, I'll leave the safety of His Highness and Princess Shi to you. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said with a smile, You're too courteous. Hurry up and go back. When I'm free, I'll visit you at the Sacred Hall. It's been a long time since I sparred with you. All right. Qin Lei also cupped his hands and said with a smile, You cultivate well. You don't have to worry about anything else. Big brothers will settle everything for you. Lin Muyu could not help but feel grateful and said, Thank you, big brothers. I will leave first. Please say goodbye to His Highness and Princess for me. All right. He turned his horse around and followed Zheng Shanhe straight towards the Divine Hall. When he looked back, the densely packed banners and spears had already blocked the backs of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. However, they would definitely be safe once they entered Lanyan City. With the protection of thousands of soldiers and horses, not to mention divine domain experts, even godly state experts would not be able to do anything to them. After not seeing each other for a few days, the pitch-black door of the divine temple seemed a little familiar. When Lin Muyu, Zheng Shanhe, and the rest arrived, the door opened. Guyang rode his horse and led a group of people to welcome them. His face was filled with eagerness. Ayu, did you find what you were looking for? Lin Muyu nodded heavily, her eyes filled with confidence, and said with a smile, Grandpa Guyang, don't worry. Please bring me to Lord Zhang Wei's place immediately. We can start the treatment. Good. Guyang smiled in admiration. The sound of hooves galloping passed by. Zhang Wei was arranged to stay in the center of the holy temple, and beside him was Rayham's residence. It seemed that Rayham was also worried that Zhang Wei would be ambushed again, so he personally protected this upright and fierce Silver Star instructor. Lei Hong came over and saw through the change in Lin Muyu's temperament at a glance. He could not help but smile. You have broken through and stepped into the heavenly state? Yes, Grandpa Lei Hong. Lin Muyu turned over and dismounted, kneeling on one knee, and said, Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong, for your protection. Otherwise I am afraid I would not have the cultivation I have today. How did you? Lei Hong was stunned, and hurriedly went forward to help him up. You are not such a fussy person, how did you? At this moment, his gaze fell on Lin Muyu's chest, and he found that the clothes there were still stained with blood. Lei Hong's spiritual sense also immediately discovered that Lin Muyu was actually seriously injured, and this injury almost took his life. For a moment, the old man's heart warmed. This child had clearly taken a trip to the gates of hell. For Lin Muyu, Lei Hong's care for him could be said to be meticulous, as if he was his real grandfather. In this world where the weak were prey to the strong, how could he not worry about such a grandfather? You have worked hard. Lei Hong held his arm and said, you really did not let Grandpa down. How was it? I heard that you, Highness Yin, Princess Shi, and the others entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Who injured you like this? A person called Song Baiha, Lin Muyu said lightly, but Lei Hong and Guyang were both shocked. Lei Hong narrowed his eyes and said, that old thing Song Baiha should have already stepped into the divine region, right? It seems that Zhang Wei's injury is inextricably linked to him. Lord Zhang Wei was injured by him, Lin Muyu said. This Song Baiha even wanted to kill Highness Yin and Princess Shi. What? Lei Hong felt a chill in his heart. This Song Baiha is really daring. He even dared to kill Highness Yin. What is the divine marquis residence planning? Could it be that Zheng Yifan has gone mad? Guyang said in a low voice. These years Zheng Yifan's military power has been continuously weakened, and it is said that he has long held a grudge against His Majesty. Now it seems that this is true. We have to be careful, Great Deacon. Yes. Lei Hong nodded. I will see His Majesty as soon as possible and tell him about this. Don't worry we will quickly enter the inner chamber to treat Zhang Wei's injury. He will not be able to hold on much longer. Yes. A group of people entered the room, and Zhang Wei was still lying there, unable to move, but his bearded face was still filled with arrogance. Looking at the people coming in from outside, a glimmer of light shone in his eyes. Lord Linji, you have returned? Yes. Lin Muyu walked forward and smiled. Lord Zhang Wei, your injury can be cured. Cured? Zhang Wei laughed at himself. I am already a cripple. Don't worry. Lin Muyu reached into her bosom and took out a total of 3 bottles of tendon replenishment powder. She lifted Zhang Wei's head and fed him, then said, the tendon replenishment powder will regenerate your dragon tendons in 2 to 3 days. This process is very obvious. Your spine will soon feel a tingling sensation, that is the dragon tendons automatically gathering and healing. Really? Zhang Wei was a little excited. Lord Linji, you mean? I, Zhang Wei, can continue to practice martial arts? Lin Muyu smiled happily. Of course, and your cultivation will not decrease. That's great. Zhang Wei was excited. He wanted to sit up, but he could not exert any strength on his back. In the end, he struggled and smiled awkwardly. I, Zhang Wei, am a boorish man. I do not know how to express my gratitude, but from today onwards, Zhang Wei's life is equivalent to Lord Lin Ji's. No need. We are friends. We both work for the temple. This is what I should do. Lei Hong said. Zhang Wei, Lin Ji has just returned to the temple. He was ambushed by the person who attacked you when he was looking for medicine. He is seriously injured. He should not stay for long. Let him go back and rest first. Oh. Zhang Wei was startled. He forced himself to cup his fists and said. Then, Lord Linji, you should go back and rest first. Okay. After leaving the door, Lei Hong and Lin Muyu walked side by side in the corridor of the temple. He said, you logically speaking, even if you stepped into the heaven realm, you should not be able to stop Ashen Crane, a sanctuary ranker, from killing you, right? Hurry up and tell me, how did you escape this calamity? Naturally, Lin Muyu could not tell him the power of the 7 luminaries demon emperor, so she said, there were 4 of us other than me. There was also Qin Yin Tang Xiaoxi, and Qin Lei. Qin Lei is the commander of the imperial army. His power is shocking, and he also has the true dragon bloodline god-binding shackles, so he was able to suppress and threaten Ashen Crane. And when we were about to lose, Grandpa Chu Chu came. Oh. Lei Hong could not help but laugh. At least this old man is still useful. If he did not appear at the crucial moment, I am afraid the empire would have changed. Lin Muyu was a little stunned. She asked, Grandpa Lei Hong, if Her Highness Yin was really killed by Ashen Crane, then what would happen to the empire? What would happen? Lei Hong looked at her with a smile and said, His Majesty is a very devoted man. He only loved one woman in his life, Her Highness Yin's mother, Empress Jingda Su Yin. After Empress Su Yin passed away, His Majesty did not marry any other woman, so he has no children, only one daughter, Qin Yin. According to the rules of the empire's ancestors, Qin Yin is the only legal successor of the Qin family, and also the future ruler of the empire. Once Qin Yin dies, I am afraid the imperial power will fall. His Majesty has two brothers, both princes. One is Prince Yuning. He has two sons, the eldest Qin Yin, the second son Qin Yan, and the other prince is Prince Shennan, Qin Yi. However, Prince Shennan is far away in Lingnan, so once Qin Yin and Qin Lei die, the person most likely to become the new emperor should be Prince Yuning's second son, Qin Yan. As he spoke, Lei Hong shook his head and smiled. But no matter who becomes the new successor of the family, they will not be able to escape the flames of war. So it is naturally for the best that Her Highness Qin Yin is alive. It is also good for the common people. You have done well. You would rather die than to protect Qin Yin's life. Her one life is worth millions of lives. Yes, Grandpa Lei Hong. Back at his residence, in the same secret room, Lin Muyu continued to focus on cultivating the forging dragon bone remnant scroll, continuously increasing the strength of his battle qi. His thirst for power grew more and more, but he was no longer that desperate for the power of the 7 planets' profound energy. He had experienced the backlash of the 7 planets' profound energy. It was simply worse than death, so it was best not to use that evil power if possible. Thus, he spent the next few days cultivating in the sacred hall, visiting Chu Yao once in the middle, and taught her some basic tricks of cultivation. He also forged a profound grade rapier, and gifted it to Chu Yao, and began to teach her the technique of the imperial sword technique. Chu Yao could be considered smart, and within a few days she had already grasped the basics. Chapter 93. For days passed in the blink of an eye. Everything was peaceful as usual. Song Baihe had not appeared since his defeat in the dragon-seeking forest. He must have been afraid that once he entered Lanyan City, he would be hunted down by Chu Chu, Lei Hong, and the rest. Song Baihe's ribs were shattered by Lin Muyu's 7 luminaries' Xian energy, and could not recover in a short period of time. Naturally, he did not dare to come looking for trouble. Early in the morning, the sound of fists hissing through the air could be heard coming from the Divine Hall. Zhang Wei was already able to get off the ground, and his fiery soul fists looked vigorous and powerful. Although he had not recovered to his peak strength, he had at least 70% of his original strength. Lin Muyu, dressed in a divine temple robe, smiled and said, Congratulations, Master Zhang Wei. You are fine now. Zhang Wei immediately stopped practicing, and gave a military salute to Lin Muyu. I will forever remember Master Lin Ji's kindness. Half of my life belongs to Master Lin Ji. You are welcome. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, The Divine Marquis residence will not let us off easily. Master Zhang Wei must recover quickly, or we will be at a disadvantage again. Yes. At this moment, Guiyang walked over and said, Tomorrow is the weapon forging day. You should all prepare. Lin Ji, this is your first time participating in the weapon forging day. Zhang Wei will explain everything to you. Weapon forging day? What does that mean? Lin Muyu was stunned. Zhang Wei smiled and explained patiently. Lin Ji, you have been in the Divine Temple for a long time, so you should know by now. The Divine Temple is the holy land of the Empire, and has 2 main functions. One is to discover the Empire's martial talents, and the other is to train the outstanding military students. The cradle of the Empire's experts is the Academy. The imperial capital has the strongest, Ares Academy. Many outstanding military talents graduated from Ares Academy. The Divine Temple is responsible for sending a group of instructors and sparring masters to Ares Academy every month to spar in front of the students and teach them outstanding martial skills and battle experience. I see. Do I have to go too? Of course, you're the strongest training partner in the Sacred Hall. If you don't go, I'm afraid our training partners will be beaten to the point where they can't even walk after the weapon refinement day. Lin Muyu immediately frowned and said, Zhang Wei, you should change your fiery temper as well. Don't always beat your sparring partner until half of his body is paralyzed during training. Do you understand? Zhang Wei scratched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly. I will try my best to pay attention to it. Lord Linji, rest assured. Yes. Guyang smiled at the side. This time's weapon forging day is rather special. It's said that many army commanders will personally participate and select outstanding graduates to join the army as officers, so you guys must perform better. Also, pay attention and protect yourselves. Zhang Wei cupped his fists. Understood, Deacon Guyang. As he spoke, Zhang Wei's eyes turned cold. Other than Zhenfang and Ouyang Qiu, the Divine Marquis residence still has some lackeys in the Divine Temple. They are all targets that we must guard against. Who else? Silver Star Instructor Deng Zilin, Gold Star Instructor Su Fang, but the most terrifying one is probably another person. Who? Zhang Wei's eyes lit up. This person rarely participates in training, but he is the strongest among all the Gold Star instructors. He is known as the first spear of the Divine Temple, Zhao Jin. It's said that he broke through level 70 a few days ago, and became a Gold Star instructor with the strength of a Heavenly King. He is the only Heavenly King instructor in the Divine Temple. Guyang added. Zhao Jin is a second-rank aide of the Divine Marquis residence. He is also a noble, and his strength is extraordinary. His spear skills are outstanding. Linji, you must be careful. If you can avoid meeting Zhao Jin, do your best. Do you understand? Yes, Deacon Guyang. Dismissed, go and train. Yes. In the middle of the night, the stars shone brightly on the Divine Marquis residence. Zheng Yifan raised his head to look at the glittering stars in the sky and sighed. A trace of disappointment flashed across his resolute face as he said, Even Elder Tsang failed. I would never have thought of this. Zheng Fang walked over with a cup of tea. Father, have some tea. Grandpa Tsang failed because Chu Chu was also in the dragon-seeking forest. Otherwise, Lin Muyu would have been beheaded. Sigh, Zheng Yifan's eyes were cold. Elder Tsang's failure has alerted the enemy. His Majesty will definitely know that Elder Tsang wants to kill Qinin. The Divine Marquis residence will also be in trouble. No, we must strike first. Strike first? Zheng Fang was stunned. Zheng Yifan's eyes were cold. Send a letter to Elder Tsang. Tell him to go to the Qinling Mountains to train for a while. Tomorrow, issue a wanted order to the Shenwei Battalion. The entire country is looking for Tsang Baihe. Anyone who obtains his head will be rewarded with 1,000,000 gold coins. Yes, father. Zhenfang nodded respectfully, then said, I heard that Lin Muyu had gotten her hands on a medicine called muscle replenishing powder, and has already healed Zhang Wei's dragon tendon. These two people are still alive. Father, are we just going to ignore this? Lin Muyu must die. Zheng Yifan punched the railing. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He smiled. Tomorrow is the day of weapon refinement. I have already told General Zhao Jin that he has become a heavenly king. The day of weapon refinement will be the day Lin Muyu dies. All right. Inside a room in the side chamber of the sacred palace. Rustle. Zhao Jin slowly wiped the shiny shaft of his spear. This pear blossom spear had been with him for many years. It had made countless contributions in conquering the south and the north. Tomorrow would be the time for this pear blossom spear to drink blood. Buzz. With a light flick of his wrist, the spearhead immediately let out a buzzing sound and a beautiful cold gleam. Zhao Jin continued to rub his pear blossom spear in a leisurely manner. There was not a single trace of emotion in his eyes. Those who deserved to die would eventually die. No matter how radiant he was, he would not be able to escape death in the face of absolute power. Knock knock. A servant knocked on the door. Lord Zhao Jin, tonight's supper is here. Shall I bring it in now? No need. I won't eat meat tonight. Zhao Jin smiled coldly. After the servant left, he muttered to himself. I can eat meat tomorrow. Early in the morning, the sound of the horn reverberated in the sacred palace. The day of weapon refinement had finally arrived. After breakfast, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, and the others put on their new sacred palace battle robes. Lin Muyu also noticed that his battle robe was actually more exquisite and luxurious than Zhang Wei's. The white cloak behind him was inlaid with a silver-purple flower pattern. He had seen Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's white robes, which had a golden-purple flower pattern. This must be the difference. One by one, the battle horses were brought out. Lin Muyu found the one that belonged to him and mounted it. He saw Lei Hong, Guiyang, Shenfang, and the other deacon-level members walking in front. Behind them were Lin Muyu, Zheng Shanhe, and the other Gold Star instructors and sparring masters. Behind them were the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Iron Star instructors. The Sacred Palace's hierarchy was very strict. Let's go. After Lei Hong gave the order, the battle horses rushed out of the Sacred Palace in a single file, and went straight out of the city. Ares College was built outside the city. As the space within the city was too small, it was unable to provide a spacious enough training field for Ares College. After more than an hour, they reached the depths of the dense forest outside the city. From afar, they could hear the uniform sound of hooves. A group of young students in dark blue imperial military uniforms were riding their horses to practice riding and shooting. But when the instructors and sparring masters of the Sacred Palace passed by, the group of students stopped their training and saluted from afar to show their respect. In the hearts of the students, the instructors of the Sacred Palace were sacred existences. Ares College was more like a city. The city walls were 10 meters tall, and there were antlers everywhere. It looked as if they were facing a great enemy. In fact, when this place was built, Ares College had already been treated as a battle fortress. It was used to surround and protect the imperial capital, Lanyan City, which was in the center. When the group of people from the Sacred Palace arrived at the bottom of the city, the gate slowly opened. A group of people riding on battle horses came to welcome them. At the front was a white-bearded old man in armor. He had the demeanor of an elder. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Sir Lei Hong, you're here. The teachers and students of Ares College have been waiting for you for a long time." Lei Hong also smiled respectfully. "Dean Qin Hao is too polite. Let's go in. Time is precious on the day of weapon refinement." Yes. After entering the college, the interior was surprisingly spacious. All the students here were wearing the imperial military uniform and looked very spirited. However, they were mostly men. It seemed that there were very few women in the military. Moreover, based on Lin Muyu's understanding of the Shattered Cauldron realm, the status of women in this world was very low. It was much lower than in ancient China. However, women of high status like Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were an exception. Even so, they were unable to hold important positions in the military. Very soon, a huge training ground appeared in front of them. It could accommodate at least a few thousand people. There were already many people sitting on the high platform. Lin Muyu's eyes were sharp. Her gaze swept across each and every one of them. Most of the badges on their necks were gold stars, which meant that most of them were at least Kiliarchs. After everyone was in position, Guiyang began to call out the names of the instructors and sparring masters one by one. Finally, Guiyang announced loudly, "The first public trial, Copper Star instructor Zhou Pei against Copper Star sparring master Jiang Yan." The two of them went up the stage. After a round of fighting, the instructor's consecutive slashes caused the sparring master to fall to the ground. Immediately, the surrounding graduates cheered. The sparring master stood up in a sorry state and bowed respectfully. However, the instructor didn't even look at him directly. It was as if this was how people should be. Lin Muyu frowned. The instructors were still too arrogant after all. The training and demonstrations went on for the entire morning. The training ground at the side was the place where the students dueled. Those high-ranking officers were already choosing the graduates they liked. Lin Muyu watched the entire morning. All the Gold Star instructors' demonstrations were arranged to be the finale in the afternoon. Therefore, as a Gold Star sparring master, he could only work in the afternoon. Chapter 94. In the afternoon, the process of refining weapons continued. Ares College's dean, Qin Hao, wore the armor of the Empire's soldiers. He stood up and pointed to the students in front of him. "These 200 students are the most outstanding students of this year's graduates. They are also the main targets of the Gold Star instructor's research. After the trial, these students may personally ask the instructor for advice. Lei Hong nodded with a smile. Lin Muyu watched from afar and said, "Is this Dean Qin Hao also a member of the Qin clan?" Qin Xiling said in a low voice. "Lin Ji, Dean Qin Hao is a collateral relative of the Qin clan, and not a direct descendant. It's just that his talent is extraordinary, and his realm is extremely high, already possessing the strength of a level 87 heavenly emperor. So even though he is a declining noble clan, he was still appointed as the dean of Ares College by the emperor more than 10 years ago, and given the title of general." Oh. Lin Muyu felt a little more respect for this Qin Hao. At this time, the afternoon trial had officially begun. Guiyang held the scroll in his hand and announced loudly, "Gold Star Trial, First Match Fist Technique Trial. Gold Star Instructor Zhang Wei against Gold Star Sparring Master Lin Ji." Zhang Wei, who was riding on his war horse, was stunned. "Ah, when did I become a Gold Star instructor?" Raham smiled faintly, raised his hand and tossed out a small object. Now, Zhang Wei caught it, and saw that it was a Gold Star instructor badge. He happily swapped out his Silver Star badge and flipped off his horse, jumping onto the trial grounds. Lin Muyu also flipped off her horse. She did not unsheath the burning prairie sword behind her. She went straight to Zhang Wei and cupped her fists. "Sir Zhang Wei, thank you for your guidance." Zhang Wei laughed. "Brother Lin Ji, there is no need to be so courteous. Come." He suddenly let out a low roar, and with the support of the bear martial soul in both of his arms, he unleashed the fiery soul fist without any hesitation. It whistled like the wind, and a straight punch carried with it the power to collapse the mountains and crack the earth. Even the fiery force that was brought along with it turned into a strong gale that blew the nearby students back one after another. Each and every one of them had a horrified look on their faces. Instructor Jin Xing's strength was indeed extraordinary. However, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, Lin Muyu countered every move that came her way. With a light wave of her arm, her martial spirit flashed out. The black tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall surrounded her body as a pure white glow faintly flowed on her arm. It was Do Qi. "Ah, this Gold Star sparring master is a Heaven Realm expert. That's battle energy." No one knew who shouted, but the group of students became solemn. One of them said loudly, "I know." Recently, the only Gold Star sparring master appeared in the Holy Temple. His name is Lin Ji. At that time he was only a level 50 battle saint. Now he has stepped into the Heaven Realm, and become a heavenly venerable. What a fast advancement speed. Bang! The fist landed on the black tortoise shell. Lin Muyu quickly retreated, but she still stood in the field. Zhang Wei let out a low roar and swept his leg across the ground, creating a raging flame. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu leaped into the air and looked down. Zhang Wei's signature move had arrived, Earth Dragon Soar. This was the leg technique that Zhang Wei was best at. Both of his legs were surrounded by raging flames as he kicked into the air. This guy did not hold back at all. In fact, Zhang Wei also knew that with his current cultivation, he could not hurt Lin Muyu. Therefore, he gave it his all and only hoped that it would be a good and exciting fight. Opening both palms, Lin Muyu still used the same hand gesture. Battle energy surged in her palms to block Zhang Wei's attack. She turned around and landed on the ground. The cracks on the black tortoiseshell that were caused by Zhang Wei's continuous attacks were quickly repaired. That was the ability of the Forbidden Mother Tree Beast Spirit Recovery. With this ability, the damaged defensive layer would also be repaired quickly. This was the most powerful part of this sixth ability. After a series of ruthless punches, Zhang Wei quickly retreated and stood opposite of Lin Muyu. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord Lin Ji's cultivation is astonishing. I, Zhang Wei, am not your opponent." Lin Muyu also cupped her fists and smiled. "Lord Zhang Wei, thank you for letting me win." Guiyang announced loudly, "It's a draw." Zhang Wei's fist technique originated from the war god Xiang Wentian's fiery fist. Any student who wants to learn the fiery fist can immediately go and ask Lord Zhang Wei for guidance. Very soon, Zhang Wei was drowned by a group of students. However, being so popular, this burly man revealed a happy smile. Lin Muyu slowly walked back to the row of sparring masters. She stood at the front and mounted her horse. Guiyang continued. The second round of the Gold Star level, Sword and Shield instructor Zhang Shanhe against Silver Star sparring master Ma Lin. Ma Lin was a man of about 30 years old. His face was full of crisscross scars. It was said that he used to be a mercenary who committed all sorts of crimes, but later turned a new leaf. Because he was a commoner, he became a sparring master after joining the Holy Temple. He did not specialize in any martial arts, but his bronze skin and iron bones were famous in the Holy Temple for his defense. Qin Xiling smiled and said, "Be careful, Lord Ma Lin. I heard that Lord Zhang Shanhe's cultivation of offensive techniques has been quite successful recently." Ma Lin laughed and said, "Don't worry, Xiling. I'll be fine." Zhang Shanhe carried his sword and shield and stepped into the training field. Among the Gold Star instructors, he was indeed one of the more loyal ones. After the battle started, he only demonstrated the method of switching between sword techniques and foot combat, and did not hurt Ma Lin at all. In fact, Zhang Shanhe's training method was most suitable for military academy students. After all, a real battle on the battlefield was a game between one side attacking and the other defending. After nearly 5 minutes of fighting, the two sides were tied. The crowd of students cheered, and many students flocked to Zhang Shanhe. This uncle began to demonstrate his swordsmanship to the students on the sidelines. In fact, this was essentially unfair. The students only flocked to the instructor, but no one cared about the sparring partners. It was as if the sparring partners were just attendants. At this moment, Guiyang unrolled the scroll and said, "The third round, spear training. Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin against Silver Star sparring master Shi Zhonghai." Shi Zhonghai was one of the few mounted commanders amongst the sparring instructors. He lifted his iron spear and leapt onto his horse. After entering the training grounds, he cupped his hands towards Zhao Jin from afar and said with a smile, "Lord Zhao Jin, please show mercy." "Ha!" A sinister smile flashed across Zhao Jin's lips, but he did not reply. "Go." Shi Zhonghai gave a low shout and charged forward with his spear. His speed was extremely fast, and Zhao Jin also charged towards him. Both sides attacked at almost the same time. Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear instantly turned into a pear blossom that bloomed in the air. In just an instant, the pear blossom spear's blade was stained with fresh blood, and Shi Zhonghai let out a miserable groan as his abdomen was pierced by the pear blossom spear. Fresh blood dripped down. Zhao Jin shook his spear and instantly shook Shi Zhonghai to the ground. "Ah!" Shi Zhonghai let out a heart-wrenching howl. Blood flowed continuously from his abdomen, but it did not seem to be fatal. Lei Hong frowned and said, "Medical officer." Several medical officers immediately went to treat Shi Zhonghai. Lei Hong cupped his hands towards Qin Hao beside him and said, "I've let Lord Qin Hao see a joke." Qin Hao's expression was calm as he said, "Fighting on the battlefield has always been a bloody affair, so how could it be a joke? Besides, these cadets will one day become blood-soaked generals on the battlefield. It's good for them to see the cruelty of war sooner rather than later." At this time, Zhao Jin turned his horse around and walked back. Holding the blood-stained pear blossom spear, he smiled and said, "Head Deacon, your subordinate has accidentally injured Lord Shi Zhonghai just now. I am truly sorry. However, my true spear techniques on horseback have yet to be displayed. How about Head Deacon send another strong sparring partner to spar with me?" On the viewing platform, a group of generals with flaming emblems on their shoulders stood up, raised their arms and laughed. "Right, send an even stronger sparring partner. We want to see the true spear techniques of the temple's #1 spear." This, Lei Hong frowned and said, This Zhao Jin." In the arena, Zhao Jin raised his spear and said loudly, "Head Deacon, the temple's strongest sparring partner is Lord Lin Ji. Your subordinate has long wanted to spar with Lord Lin Ji. How about we do it today? Please grant this subordinate's wish, Head Deacon." More and more people started to heckle, and there were even some students who were shouting, "Lord Lin Ji, please accept the challenge. Lord Lin Ji, please accept the challenge." Lei Hong had originally planned to protect Lin Muyu, not letting him encounter Zhao Jin. But now he could no longer protect him. As the saying goes, it's best not to offend the anger of the masses. With so many people asking for Lin Muyu to fight, this battle was inevitable. Linji, Lei Hong said from afar. Are you willing to fight Lord Zhao Jin? If you are not willing, I will not force you. After all, you have already fought today. According to the rules, no one can force you to fight a second time. Lin Muyu's gaze stopped on Shi Zhonghai, who was lying on the ground. Yet another sparring partner had suffered such humiliation. It seemed that the status of sparring partners in the temple had never changed. In the next moment, his gaze became resolute, and he cupped his fists and said, Head Deacon, I am willing to fight, but you must promise me one thing. Allow me to attack. What is it? Lei Hong was stunned. Qin Hao was also stunned. He smiled and stood up saying, Interesting. I never thought that there would be such a heroic youth in the temple. Lord Lei Hong, I think. Why don't you grant it? Allow Lin Ji to attack. Even if he injures his opponent, he cannot be punished. How about it? Lei Hong gritted his teeth saying, Fine. The two of you better not hurt each other. Otherwise I will not let you off lightly. Yes. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, and with a dang sound, he pulled out the burning prairie sword. Do Qi slowly poured in, and the burning prairie sword's flames grew brighter, causing the students to click their tongues in wonder. Many of them were dumbfounded. What a powerful aura. This sparring partner is not bad. From afar, Zhao Jin held his spear horizontally across his chest, and smiled, saying, Lord Linji, please enlighten me. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Lin Muyu actually knew that this person was from the Divine Marquis Palace, and the people on the stage who were clamoring for her to fight were also from the Divine Marquis Palace. These people were the generals of the Divine Might Battalion. This was a trap, and they were waiting for her to jump into it. In truth, these people also knew that she was only a level 60 Heavenly Master, and Zhao Jin was a level 70 Heavenly King. In their eyes, she was definitely not Zhao Jin's match, right? Coming, Zhao Jin was the first to attack. He urged his horse and charged forward with his pear blossom spear. Chapter 95. Xiu. With a piercing sound, the pear blossom spear transformed into a streak of cold light as it headed straight for Zhao Jin's chest. Seeing this, Lin Muyu hurriedly dodged and used the burning prairie sword to block the attack. At the same time, she steered her horse to the side to dodge. However, just as the pear blossom spear was about to come into contact with the sword's edge, Zhao Jin suddenly shook the spear's shaft. Instantly, battle chi erupted from the tip of the spear and directly surged towards the burning prairie sword. This was the move that Zhao Jin had used to injure Shi Zhonghai. Dang! Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear had a green flood dragon coiled around its shaft. That was his martial soul, and it could greatly increase the force of impact. Furthermore, Lin Muyu's strength was already inferior to her opponent's to begin with. Naturally, she wasn't able to gain any advantage. As the horse passed by her, she suddenly felt a tremor behind her. Zhao Jin had actually turned around and used the shaft of his spear to strike the wall of the gourd. Pung! Zhao Jin's strength was simply too strong. Furthermore, his horsemanship skills were above Lin Muyu's. He quickly turned his horse around and thrust his spear forward. This was already the second attack. With a pu sound, a hole was pierced through the black tortoise's shell. Killing intent flashed across Zhao Jin's eyes as the flood dragon on the spear suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of frost. Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated, but it was already too late. She could only raise her left arm and form 5 layers of chi armor in an attempt to block the frost. However, who would have thought that the frost would be able to pass through the gourd and chi armor and directly attack her body? In the next moment, her entire left arm was numb and covered in frost. For a short period of time, she had already lost the ability to fight. The burning prairie sword in her right hand hurriedly swept across. She had to seize this opportunity to prevent Zhao Jin from attacking again. Otherwise, she would be in danger. However, what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that Zhao Jin's horsemanship skills could be said to be top-notch. Lying down on his horse, he dodged the sword and suddenly stabbed out with his pear blossom spear. Pooh! It pierced straight into Lin Muyu's right shoulder, leaving a bloody hole in his shoulder. Zhao Jin swiftly pulled out the spear that was stained with the blood of both Lin Muyu and Shi Zhonghai. Without saying a word, he struck out with his spear again. His strength was too strong, and even the mystic tortoise-shell and dragon-scale wall could not block the pear blossom spear. In an instant, Lin Muyu was at an absolute disadvantage. Zhao Jin hurriedly urged his horse to retreat to avoid this fatal spear, but the price he had to pay was that Zhao Jin suddenly shook his pear blossom spear and sent the prairie fire sword flying. Pa! The burning prairie sword spun rapidly in the air and stabbed into the sand dozens of meters away. Zhao Jin's face was filled with a sinister smile. Both your arms have been crippled, and you've lost your weapons. What else can you do? In the stands, Lei Hong abruptly stood up and shouted, Zhao Jin, you've already won. Stop. Zhao Jin, however, did not care about all this. With a flash of his pear blossom spear, he urged his horse forward, and the flood dragon martial soul encircled his body with frost. He had already decided to kill his opponent with a single strike. The students at the side of the stands were also shocked. When had they ever seen such an intense fight? It's over. That gold star sparring master is about to be killed. All the students had the same thought. Some were worried about Lin Muyu, while others were waiting for the scene of blood splattering everywhere. Right at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her right palm, and streams of blood flowed down her fingers. At the same time, her battle energy transformed into streaks of lightning that scuttled on the ground. The lightning rapidly wrapped around the sword hilt in the distance, and with a schwa sound, the burning prairie sword was pulled out from the ground. Without even holding onto the sword, she directly struck at Zhao Jin's back. Zhao Jin was just about to raise his spear and kill when he suddenly felt a surge of killing intent from behind him. He had to be on guard. He quickly turned around, only to see the dense lightning wrapped around the burning prairie sword. Not good. He hurriedly raised his pear blossom spear to block, but it was too late. Lin Muyu's attack was too fast and fierce, and did not give him much time to prepare. He did not even have time to fully hold onto the spear shaft. Under the fierce attack of the lightning sword, the pear blossom spear actually flew out of his hands. Ah! Zhao Jin's face was full of shock, and the surrounding students were also dumbfounded. One of them took a few steps back, his face full of shock. It's the Imperial Sword technique. My God, this gold star sparring master is actually well versed in the Imperial Sword technique. You're asking for death. Zhao Jin flew into a rage out of humiliation. He suddenly pulled out the sword at his waist, and with a heavy blow, he knocked the burning prairie sword away. He turned around and charged at Lin Muyu. He had already reached the point where if he did not kill Lin Muyu, he would not have the face to continue staying in the holy sanctum. However, when he turned around, he saw that Lin Muyu's injured palm was slightly opened, and his battle chi was transformed into flames. Streams of flames whistled and spiraled, controlling the burning prairie sword from afar. The long sword screamed and spun in the air, and the sound of the sword was extremely sharp. Lin Muyu's face was somewhat pale. He opened his palm slightly, and the burning prairie sword went straight for Zhao Jin. Flame spiraling break. He had only transformed his battle chi into flames, and did not use the true dragon essence fire. If not, Qin Hao and the other strong martial artists would have been able to see through him. It was not a good thing to expose his own strength too much. Zhao Jin gave it his all. He held his sword horizontally in front of his chest, and the flood dragon martial spirit whistled and lingered around him, forming a barrier. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, Linji, you lowly commoner, aren't you the holy sanctum's strongest defense? Come, test out your grandfather Zhao Jin's defense. His actions were exactly what Lin Muyu wanted. With a push of his palm, the flame spiraling break shot out at full speed. Dang! A crisp sound, and Zhao Jin's sword shattered. However, Zhao Jin was after all a Heavenly King stage powerhouse, and his reaction speed was not ordinary. As soon as he knew that he could not defend against it, he fell back onto his horse. In the end, the burning prairie sword flew past his nose, just barely managing to not take his life. As Zhao Jin flipped himself up, he saw Lin Muyu's angry eyes at close range. With a paw sound, Lin Muyu used his injured arm to grab the sword hilt, and the sharp edge of the burning prairie sword pressed against Zhao Jin's right armpit, gently lifting it up. Gotcha! The next moment, Zhao Jin's heart-rending scream rang out as his entire arm flew into the air. Lin Muyu waved her sword, and her battle chi burst into flames. With a huala sound, the flame sword chi instantly destroyed Zhao Jin's broken arm. Turning around, she pulled out Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear from the ground, before urging her horse towards the stage. Yu. Lei Hong stared with his mouth agape. He could not stop what was happening in time, and when he reached the edge of the stage, he saw Lin Muyu's injured arm drooping at his side, his battle chi melting the frost on his left arm. Holding the pear blossom spear, he cupped his fists with difficulty and said, "I'm sorry, Great Deacon. I accidentally injured Sir Zhao Jin's arm, and I will bear all the punishment. However, Sir Zhao Jin wanted to kill me, but was defeated by me. According to the Empire's rules, his pear blossom spear belongs to me, right?" Yu Leihong sighed. The conflict between the temple and the Divine Marquis Mansion seemed to have deepened because of this weapon's tempering day. Qin Hao stood up and looked at Lin Muyu, smiling faintly as he said, "This kid has guts, and his courage is not bad. I like it. Sir Lei Hong, why don't you let our Ares College have this gold star sparring master Lin Ji? We are lacking an instructor with such strength." How could Reiham bear to let go of this precious treasure? Lin Muyu could even defeat Zhao Jin. Among the instructors and sparring partners of the Sage Sanctum, he was already the number one. Furthermore, he was blessed by the heavens. Such a talent could not be given to Ares College even if he was beaten to death. "Dean, you must be joking." Lei Hong laughed. "Lin Ji is a sinner of the temple. I cannot let him stay in Zhongjing College and harm your students." As he said this, he cleared his throat and announced loudly, "The trial results, Lin Ji wins. However, Lin Ji has injured someone too severely, so he will be punished with 7 days of closed-door reflection. Men, bring Sir Zhao Jin to treat his injuries." Zhao Jin had already fainted on the ground. Qin Hao looked at Zhao Jin from afar and could not help but laugh. The Divine Marquis Constabulary's man had his right arm cut off, and his severed limb was crushed by Lin Ji. "This kid is ruthless and courageous, ha? I am afraid the temple will not be able to bear the consequences this time. Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan is not a pushover." Reiham looked at this gloating old friend and said, "Don't be so happy here. After all, this happened in Ares College, and our Divine Temple lost a gold star instructor. This debt must be placed on your head. According to the law, Ares College should compensate the Divine Temple 240,000 gold hub coins. However, on account of our friendship, I will wait for you to send the 200,000 gold hub coins to me in the Divine Temple." Qin Hao was stunned. You are actually talking about money with me? We have been friends for decades, and you are talking about money with me. Moreover, Ares College is just a small town. Where do you get so much money from? Come on, the Empire subsidizes Ares College by 2 million Jin Hun coins every year. Don't think I don't know, otherwise, where would you get the money to purchase weapons, war horses, and even your cavalry of 3,000? Don't hide it from me, pay me back. All right. You are not young anymore, but your temper is still so bad. After returning to the sparring team, Lin Muyu took out some healing medicine and sprinkled it on her wound to speed up the healing process. Her face was a little pale. After all, her wound was quite serious, and the pear blossom spear that was imbued with her martial soul was not easy to deal with. "Congratulations, Lin Ji, you have defeated Zhao Jin," Qin Xiling said with a smile. "What's there to congratulate?" Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. "I just poked a hornet's nest." Ma Lin smiled and said, "Lin Ji, you have fought hard for us sparring masters. Don't be so humble. From today onwards, you will be the number one person in our temple." Sigh. Lin Muyu did not know whether to be happy or unhappy. She lifted her head and saw that all the generals of the Divine Might Battalion had a murderous look on their faces. She had indeed poked a hornet's nest. "Xiling, what is the background of the Divine Might Battalion?" he asked in a low voice. Qin Xiling said, "Divine Might Battalion? Oh, that is the private army of the Divine Marquis, Zheng Yifan." Among all the ministers in the Empire, only Zheng Yifan is allowed to raise a private army because of his outstanding military achievements. The Divine Might Battalion has a total of 5,000 people, and they are all strong soldiers who have been through hundreds of battles. I heard that there are more than 10 of them who have reached the heaven realm. It is said that the Divine Might Battalion is currently the most elite troop in the world. 5,000 of them are enough to defeat Feng Jixing's 30,000 Imperial Guards. However, this is only a rumor. No one knows how powerful the Divine Might Battalion is. Lin Muyu was stunned. Even Big Brother Feng's 30,000 Imperial Guards are no match for them? That is too exaggerated. Qin Xiling smiled slightly. I am not too sure myself. I have only heard about it. However, within the imperial capital's sphere of influence, these two forces are the most tyrannical. One is the Divine Might Battalion, and the other is the Imperial Guards. The Imperial Guards are in charge of protecting the Emperor, while the Divine Might Battalion is in charge of protecting Zheng Yifan. These two forces are constantly in conflict within the imperial capital. Fights are a common occurrence. Basically, everyone knows that they look down on each other. I see, the waters of the imperial capital were too deep. Chapter 96. Master Linji, your dinner has been placed outside the door. The voice of a servant came from outside. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. The light in his eyes gradually dissipated and returned to their original clarity. This was the third day of his closed-door reflection. In fact, he had not been idling for the past 3 days. He had been practicing the dragon forging bone remnant scroll. This remnant scroll was very mysterious. The more he practiced, the more Lin Muyu could clearly feel his dou qi growing stronger. However, he did not dare to slack off. After all, he had almost died in the trial 3 days ago. Zhao Jin had lost because he had underestimated his opponent. After being knocked away by the thunderous frenzy, he had underestimated his opponent and used his own defense to challenge Lin Muyu's strongest penetrating attack. If Zhao Jin had really faced him head-on, the one who would have died would have been Lin Muyu. After all, Zhao Jin had the advantage in horsemanship and spear skills. Horsemanship and spear skills still needed to be learned from the instructors in the Divine Temple. They could not be rushed. Now he needed more power to fight against the hidden enemy. The battle at the Dragon's Tomb had made Lin Muyu understand the difference between him and the Sanctuary. This difference could not be made up with hard work in a short period of time. Only by obtaining more power from the mysterious soul could he be invincible. After dinner, he returned to the secret room and entered the state of one with the mind. His spiritual sense slowly condensed, and he slowly entered a state of selflessness. His spiritual sense turned into a stream of light and entered his Yi-Hai. His Yi-Hai was chaotic. Sometimes it was a raging sea with billowing waves, sometimes it was a mountain range, and sometimes it was an empty darkness. Looking down, the darkness turned into an ocean with thousands of layers of waves. Whoosh! Lin Muyu's spiritual sense quickly turned into his real body. Wearing the Divine Temple's battle robe, he appeared in his Wuxia. This was the first time he had tried to turn into his real body, and he actually succeeded. Since he was in the Wuxia, it was like a dream. His real body controlled the power to fly. The wind howled, causing his battle robe to flutter. He closed his eyes and felt the tyrannical power below him. He jumped down, pulled out the burning prairie sword, and pierced into the sea like a sharp sword. Bang! Under the stimulation of the ice-cold seawater, he opened his eyes. However, the moment he opened his eyes, the area below him turned into a mountain range. He rushed down without slowing down. With a slight shake of his arm, the burning prairie sword struck the ground with the combat energy of the spiral break. The green mountains and clear waters on the ground actually began to distort. Under the guidance of the burning prairie sword's ears, it flew downwards. Suddenly, everything turned dark. This was a dark and chaotic space. Sunlight shone down from above, and shone on a blurry figure. Lin Muyu slowly descended and stood on the soft ground. She looked at the person in front of her. This person's body seemed to be on fire. The burning flames were slowly burning his body into sparks, and the sparks soared into the sky. 7 luminaries, Demon Emperor. This wound should be the result of being burned by the furnace. It seemed like the damage to the 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor's soul was very substantial. Lin Muyu gripped the burning prairie sword tightly and said, Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. This doesn't feel good, right? You tried to take over my body in the past, but now you have become a soul imprisoned in my body. How pitiful. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor slowly raised his head. Half of his face had been burned off by the furnace, and his flesh and blood were turning into sparks. It looked extremely terrifying. He suddenly grinned and said, "Brat, what are you doing here? Do you think you are the winner? Dream on, it's not the end yet. I was wrong about you. So you have such a powerful flame refining ability. However, as long as you can't kill me, I will have the chance to take over your body again. At that time, I will make you wish you were dead." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. "If you want to suffer less under my imprisonment, then answer my questions honestly." Ha 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 ha. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor raised his head and laughed wildly for a few seconds. He looked down at him and said, "Speak, what do you want from me? Why can't I control the power of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy?" Lin Muyu asked. "You? With just you?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed again. His laughter shook the entire high space and said, "I have spent my entire life to understand the secret art of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy. This power is unprecedented and invincible. Even that old ghost Chini died under the Seven Luminaries' profound energy. You want to control the Seven Luminaries' profound energy?" Lin Muyu opened his left hand, and the flame refining immediately appeared. It continued to burn the body of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. "Answer my questions. Don't make personal attacks. It's boring," he said indifferently. "Ah." The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor, this incomparable demon king, screamed endlessly. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He then said leisurely, You stinking brat, I'll tell you. The Seven Luminaries' profound energy is a kind of power that comes from the soul. If you want to control the Seven Luminaries' profound energy, you need a strong enough soul. With your soul that is as weak as a chicken, you can only control the first of the Seven Luminaries at most. This is also the reason why you forcefully used the Two Luminaries demon dance and suffered a backlash. Is my soul very weak? As weak as a chicken? Shut up. Lin Muyu's body trembled. He was afraid that he would receive the title of Weak Chicken Lin. He suppressed his anger and continued to ask, "Then how can I increase the strength of my soul?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor was silent for a few seconds. He said, "If you release my imprisonment, this emperor can consider taking you in as a disciple and teach you the entire set of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy." "Stop dreaming." Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. "Even though I desire power, I will never do something like asking a tiger for its skin. You can forget about stepping out of my EC for the rest of your life. Don't worry, I have a way to make you submit." As he said this, he suddenly stomped his feet. The entire EC space became a furnace for refining treasured weapons. Flames rose from all directions and burned the body of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. Aha! In the midst of his miserable howl, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's body was continuously burned to ashes. However, he had long cultivated the Demon Emperor's undying body. Thus, new flesh and blood were constantly growing out, and then being burned away. This process repeated over and over again. It was a tragic sight. "Now give me the complete Seven Luminaries' profound energy," Lin Muyu said with an icy cold gaze. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor softly knelt on the ground. His voice was very weak. You're torturing me like this, it's too inhumane. What a joke. You're a homicidal maniac. What humanity is there to talk about? This is just a judgment of justice." Lin Muyu had a shameless look on his face. He held on to the hilt of his sword and walked forward step by step. He said lightly, "Moreover, you want to kill me at any time, so no matter what I do to you, it is not considered excessive. This is the principle of my style of doing things." "Is that so?" The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor slowly raised his head. Suddenly, flames surged out of his eyes. The ground slowly trembled. The ground under his feet quickly cracked open, and blue stars appeared. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. He suddenly raised his palm, and a bright star quickly condensed. He cackled and said, Who do you think you are? You dare to enter the EC and challenge me? You're courting death, idiot. Lin Wuyu secretly cursed and hurriedly retreated. He did not expect the 7 luminaries demon emperor to be able to launch a counterattack in his own refining cauldron. Wang. The power of heaven and earth surged. It was the supreme power of the 7 glorious stars transformation. Lin Wuyu hurriedly shouted and summoned his martial soul. The mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were activated. His palms controlled 5 pieces of chi armor to protect himself. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in front of him. The power of the 7 glorious stars transformation burst forth. It was as if countless stars had completed the fission and explosion in an instant. The monstrous destructive power attacked and actually destroyed the mystic tortoise shell, dragon scale wall and other defensive shields in an instant. It's over. My body is going to be taken over. Lin Wuyu's heart turned cold. At this moment he suddenly heard a voice in his ear. Brother, you're really too willful. Shua. His body seemed to be dragged out of the bottom of the EC. After experiencing a burst of cool water, he had already flown out of the attack range of the 7 glorious stars transformation. Lin Wuyu turned his head to look. The beautiful female elf official, Lulu, was flapping her wings and pulling him along as she flew. Lulu, haha Lulu. He was ecstatic that he had escaped death. Lulu turned to look at him. She pouted and scolded. The spiritual power of the 7 luminaries demon emperor is too strong. It could control your body at any time. You actually dared to enter the EC with your spiritual sense to die. Brother, you really don't know your limits. Alright, I didn't know before. And hurry up and get out. If your spiritual sense enters the EC for too long, it will cause serious harm to your body. Lin Wuyu leaped and broke through the sky. His spiritual sense returned to his body. He slowly opened his eyes, but his whole body was already covered in cold sweat. It was just a few minutes, but it felt like a few centuries. Spiritual sense. But how to cultivate the spiritual sense? Actually, Lin Wuyu also knew that the 7 luminaries demon emperor was in his body. The power of the 7 luminaries demon emperor could be refined using the crafting cauldron. What he needed to do the most was to strengthen the power of the spiritual sense. Otherwise, even if he cultivated the 7 luminaries demon emperor, he would not be able to use it. He did not want to use the 7 luminaries demon emperor again at the cost of his life. Lulu, do you know how to cultivate the spiritual sense? He asked. Lulu quickly flew out of his body. She shook her head and said, I don't know, but brother can ask Lei Hong. This old man is well-read. He should know a thing or two. Lin Wuyu stood up and looked to the side. Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear was still there, glowing faintly in the darkness. This pear blossom spear was a mysterious grade weapon. The spear shaft and the spear blade were made of rare metals. However, the effect of refining souls was not good. The beast's soul contained within it was not more than 4,000 years old. It was a waste of such a good metal. When he had the time, he could find a suitable spirit stone to refine the soul again. This way, the pear blossom spear would definitely be a rare divine weapon. Opening the door of the secret chamber, a few temple guards were standing guard. One of them said politely, Master Lin Ji, you are still in 7 days of closed-door reflection. You cannot go out. I know. I would like to ask you to invite head deacon Lei Hong over. Tell him that I have a question to ask. Yes, master. The temple guard was very respectful. He probably knew that Lin Wuyu had defeated Zhao Jin in Ares College. In this world, martial arts were respected. In the eyes of these people, Lin Wuyu was undoubtedly a strong person worthy of respect. Not long after, Lei Hong pushed open the door and entered. He smiled and said, how are you doing here? Chapter 97. It's not good or bad. It's just too empty. Lin Wuyu said, Fortunately, I've been training, so I can get through it. Don't worry, Grandpa Lei Hong. Lei Hong laughed. Brat, you broke Zhao Kuang's arm, so he won't be able to use a spear for the rest of his life. Our Divine Temple's #1 spear became useless in your hands. And you still have the nerve to complain to me. Tell me, why did you call me here? It's like this. Lin Muyu thought for a moment, then asked, Grandpa Lei Hong, do you know about soul? Soul? Lei Hong was slightly startled, then said, Yes, soul will become stronger as the martial artist's cultivation increases. This is something that happens naturally. What's wrong, you? I want to train my soul alone. Is there any way? Train your soul alone? Lei Hong could not help but laugh. I've never heard of anyone who would train their soul alone. The strength of the soul is complementary to the cultivation. Then, is there a way to do it alone? There is. Lei Hong furrowed his brows and said, I've heard that there was an extraordinary person hundreds of years ago who created a set of secret arts to cultivate mental strength. However, after he cultivated it, his soul became too strong, and his sense of smell and hearing were hundreds of times stronger than ordinary people's. In the end, he went insane and committed suicide by jumping into the river. Therefore, no one has studied his so-called secret arts ever since. What the? Lin Muyu was startled, but after thinking about it carefully, once she mastered the 7 luminaries' profound force, the 7 luminaries' profound force would consume a lot of her soul power, so it shouldn't cause her mental disorder. So she asked, Can I still find this secret art of his? It should be possible. There are millions of books in the Zetian Palace's library, so it should not be a problem to find a third-grade martial art. As he spoke, Lei Hong looked at Lin Muyu seriously. Are you sure you won't go insane from cultivating this martial art? I won't, don't worry, Grandpa. That's good. Before dusk, Lei Hong sent someone to deliver an ancient book that was already yellow and about to fall off. 3 words could be vaguely seen on it in small seal script: Spirit Pulse Technique. Holding the Spirit Pulse Technique, Lin Muyu studied it for an entire night and memorized more than 20,000 words. The so-called Spirit Pulse was actually to merge one's spiritual sense with the surroundings, harmonizing with nature. Through the air, temperature, and energy in the surroundings, one could increase one's spiritual force cultivation. Just as Lei Hong had said, the Spirit Pulse Technique was a third-rate martial technique. Without sufficient cultivation, cultivating the Spirit Pulse Technique could indeed drive one crazy. However, Lin Muyu was different. He had already stepped into the heaven realm, and his soul was already very strong. In addition, he had tempered his skin, honed his bones, cleansed his marrow, and possessed the bloodline of the true dragon. Even if his spiritual sense was improved a little, it would not be a problem. At night, lying on the bed, he quietly spread his spiritual sense out. As expected, he could feel the pulse of sound. About 500 meters away, there were 2 people, one heavy and one light. Neither of them spoke. It should be Qin Xiling and Zhang Wei, because one of the aura overflowing from their bodies was strong, and the other weak. The strong aura was more violent, while the weak aura was more gentle. There was no doubt that it was the 2 of them. Knock, knock. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Wei laughed out loud. Lord Linji, Xiling and I have brought wine and meat to see you. Lin Muyu got up and opened the door to let the 2 of them in. As expected, the 2 of them were carrying wine and meat. He immediately smiled and said, You've come. Come in and take a seat. There's no need to be polite. Zhang Wei naturally would not be polite. He brought a roasted chicken and a deer leg, while Qin Xiling brought some cooked vegetables and 2 jars of good wine. After putting down the 2 jars, the 3 of them ate and chatted. That bastard Zhao Jin, he actually said that he wanted to practice the sword with one hand, and one day he will personally kill you. Zhang Wei said while spitting saliva. His face was flushed red and he looked angry. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Let him be. Zhao Jin is already a cripple. Qin Xiling said. Linji, when you go out, you must be careful. I heard from the people outside that the Divine Might Battalion has spread the word that as long as they find a chance, they will definitely cut you into 8 pieces. Divine Might Battalion? Lin Muyu frowned and said. Forget it, I knew that I would definitely offend the Divine Might Battalion. What's more, Zhen Fang will not let me off so easily. Zhang Wei patted his chest and said, Don't worry, as long as you are in the temple no one can do anything to you, right? Zhang Wei smiled mysteriously and said, Master Linji, after you defeated Zhao Jin, the entire Lanyan city has been filled with rumors about you. They all say that you are already the #1 person in the younger generation of the temple, and that you are comparable to the Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, the Imperial Guard Commander Qin Lei, and the others. How can that be? Lin Wuyu couldn't help but laugh. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei are both favored by the heavens. I was just lucky to defeat Zhao Jin. What's more, they are all commanders with thousands of troops under their control. What am I? Zhang Wei smiled slightly. Military power? Actually, if you want military power, it is very simple. As long as you decide to leave the temple, I believe that many armies within the empire will be willing to accept you. With your cultivation, becoming a Inyang commandant or something is not a problem. Let's not talk about this, let's drink. Lin Wuyu felt a little annoyed for no reason. Even if he became a commander, he would still have to face many enemies, and he would not be able to sleep or eat in peace. Alright, let's drink. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed, and finally, the 7 days of confinement were up. When Lin Wuyu walked out of the secret room, he had already achieved some small success in the spirit pulse technique, and he stood in the courtyard feeling refreshed. Hua! He clenched his fist, and milky white dough qi surrounded his fist. He lightly circulated his energy, and the power of the chaotic star of the common life immediately appeared in his palm. It was the color of blood. The so-called chaotic star of the common life was war, and the power of this move was powerful and domineering. It was the power of the 7 luminaries' Xian energy that he could use most freely. Taking a deep breath, he slowly increased the strength of his dou qi, and Lin Wuyu shouted, 2 luminaries demonic dance. Buzz. The air around him surged, and a black demonic aura appeared in his palm. That was the power of the 2 luminaries' demonic dance. As expected, practicing the spirit pulse technique was very effective. Controlling the power of the 2nd luminaries wasn't very strenuous. As for the 3rd luminaries, after 7 days of refining, he had already refined the profound meaning of the 3rd luminaries from the soul of the 7 luminaries' demon emperor. However, when Lin Wuyu raised his dou qi and wanted to activate the 3rd luminaries, he felt intense pain all over his body. His arms were full of veins, and his dantian felt like it was about to explode. In the end, his soul still couldn't withstand the power of the 3rd luminaries. He let out a deep breath, and gave up on forcing the 3 luminaries' calamity. Let it be. After all, he would practice the spirit pulse technique every day, and who knows, he might be able to easily control the 3rd luminaries one day. Furthermore, his current cultivation was already very shocking. Lin Wuyu was actually very confident in his heart. He could basically defeat any Heaven Realm expert that didn't exceed level 70. Guyang held the temple's scroll as he passed through the courtyard. From afar, he said with a smile, "Your confinement has been lifted. This morning is the temple's recruitment day. As a Gold Star sparring master, you should participate." Yes, Grandpa Guyang. He took a few quick steps forward, and quickly tidied up his armor. The temple's battle robe suited him very well, and looked very good. Even Guyang couldn't help but take a few more glances at it. He sighed lightly. When he was young, he didn't have the qualifications to wear this battle robe. In the temple's main hall, a group of instructors and sparring masters stood on 2 sides. Rui Hong personally presided over the ceremony for the newcomers to enter the temple. "Lord Linji, you're here?" Zhang Wei smiled as he greeted. Lin Wuyu smiled slightly, and stood opposite Zhang Wei. The group of Silver Star, Copper Star, and Iron Star instructors and sparring masters behind him naturally looked at him with respect. In fact, both Lin Wuyu and Zhang Wei were Gold Star, and their status in the temple was no longer the same as when they first entered the temple. "Let the ceremony begin," Rui Hong said indifferently. Guyang unfurled the scroll, and with an aged and trembling voice he said, "Today, there are a total of 14 people who will enter the temple. First place in the trial, Qin Yan, descendant of the royal family, level 62 heavenly sovereign, martial soul, dragon scale, will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary $200 GNI. Second place in the trial, Li Mingyi, commoner, level 59 battle saint, will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary $80 GNI. Third place in the trial, Lei Manjiang, commoner, level 55 battle saint, Will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary $50 Gene. When Guyang announced half of the names of the 14 people who would enter the temple, Lin Muyu had already noticed a young man at the front of the group. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and was rather handsome. However, there was an indescribable arrogance between his brows. This brat seemed to look a little similar to Qin Lei. Thinking about it carefully, he seemed to be Qin Lei's younger brother, the legendary second son of Prince Jining, Qin Yan. Qin Yan also noticed Lin Muyu. Carrying a fiery red iron spear, he walked forward and asked with a smile, "You are Lin Ji?" "That's me. I've heard my brother mention you before, saying how powerful you are. Now that I look at you, you're only so-so." He raised his sword-like eyebrows, and directly provoked him. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, so he couldn't be bothered to fuss over it. He cupped his fists and said, "There will be opportunities to spar in the future, little Duke." "I know. Everyone be quiet," Lei Hong said solemnly, and then said, "The 14 of you are now members of the temple. You must know that the temple is the sacred hall of all the martial artists in the world. During the period of training in the temple, no personal fights are allowed, and no killing is allowed. This is our basic iron law. Alright, Deacon Guyang, read them the 74 laws of the temple." "Yes, great Deacon." When Guyang finished reading the 74 laws, everyone was already on the verge of falling asleep. Lei Hong immediately announced the dismissal. After lunch, they would officially begin the trial and sparring. And just as Lin Muyu turned around to go eat, Qin Yan's palm suddenly pressed on his shoulder, and said with a smile, "Lin Ji, don't go yet. It won't be too late for us to have a meal after we determine a winner." Chapter 98. Little Prince. Lin Muyu turned around and said with a smile, "I know your elder brother, big brother Qin Lei. We both serve the Holy Temple. There will be plenty of chances to spar in the future. There's no rush right now, right?" Qin Yan's handsome face revealed a hint of a smile. "I know you're my brother's friend. Don't worry, I won't harm you in the slightest. I just want to verify just whose defense is the strongest in this holy temple." Strongest defense? Yes. Qin Yan's appearance was not the same as Qin Lei's. He was a little more handsome. Holding the long spear in his hand, with a low roar, a golden dragon-shaped energy enveloped his body, gradually condensing on the holy temple battle robes. He said with a smile, "You've also seen it. As a member of the Qin family, although I did not comprehend the god-binding chains of the true dragon bloodline, I have comprehended the dragon scale armor of my mother's family. The dragon scale armor is a third-grade defensive type tool spirit, known as the world's #1 defensive martial spirit. This is also the reason why I'm looking for you to spar." "Then how does little Prince wish to spar?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yan's face was still slightly immature. Scratching his head, he said with a smile, "How about this? In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, we'll mutually attack each other. Whoever can break the other's martial spirit first will be considered the winner. How about it?" Lin Muyu thought about it and already had a plan in her heart. "And all right then." Qin Yan immediately raised his arm and said, "Deacon Guyang, please come over and be a witness for us. And that, Lord Zhongwei, please come over and be a witness for the victory between me and big brother Lin Ji." Guyang had a helpless look. "Little Prince Qin Yan, this doesn't conform to the Holy Temple's rules. We prohibit private fights. We're only going to determine victory and defeat, not life and death." "Deacon Guyang, don't worry." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and stood at the side, saying with a smile, "Lord Lin Ji, you have to fight for the Holy Temple's sparring masters." At this time, quite a number of people came after hearing the news. In the blink of an eye, over 20 people gathered at the side, and Guyang had already lit an incense stick, saying, "Regardless of victory or defeat, the battle must stop after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." "Yes." Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists and saluted from a distance. In the next moment, Qin Yan suddenly shook the fire serpent spear in his hand. Immediately, dense flames covered the fire serpent spear. He was Qin Lei's younger brother. With regards to Qin Lei's strength, Lin Muyu was both respectful and fearful. This Qin Yan in front of him was presumably not much weaker than his older brother. Otherwise, he would not have come to challenge her. Clang. Unsheathing the prairie flame sword, Zhang Xian exhaled his dou qi and flames immediately gushed out from the sword. Without holding back, he charged forward and executed the triple slash of the wind-riding sword art. Bang bang bang. Dragon roars rose in a rhythmic manner. The dragon scale armor around Qin Yan's body reacted. The prairie flame sword's 3 successive strikes were indeed unable to injure the dragon scale armor in the slightest. Instead, it shook Lin Muyu's arm to the point of numbness. Furthermore, every strike felt as if it was striking a 10,000-year-old boulder. This dragon scale armor was known as the world's #1 defensive martial soul. It indeed deserved its reputation. No worries, I can still do it. No need to hold back. Qin Yan laughed loudly. With a shake of the metal spear in his hand, the beast's spirit with a fire serpent wrapped around it smashed onto the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. Instantly, a tiny crack appeared on the outermost layer of the black tortoise armor. However, under the recovery effect, this tiny crack was rapidly repaired. Qin Yan was proficient in defensive combat techniques, and his offensive combat techniques could only be considered average. At the very least, he could not be compared to Zhao Jin's combat technique, which gave up on defense and focused on offense. Good gourd, interesting. Qin Yan's face flushed red. This brat was indeed a martial fanatic. With a clang, the heavy strike of the fire serpent spear sent Lin Muyu flying backwards. The long sword in her hand also flew out of her hand. Qin Yan quickly grabbed the opportunity, and with a thrust of his spear he struck the hilt of the prairie flame sword, looking as if he wanted to send the prairie flame sword flying. However, right at this moment, bolts of lightning wreaked havoc in the air, tightly grabbing onto the prairie flame sword like an invisible hand. Furthermore, with a flash of lightning, the prairie flame sword rumbled over with dazzling lightning. Ah! Qin Yan did not know that Lin Muyu had grasped the 4-elemental imperial sword. He hurriedly took a step back, his feet piercing into the stone floor like iron pillars. The dragon scale armor shone with a resplendent light, and the 2 defensive abilities of Rockwall plus Shield were added onto the dragon scale armor at the same time. With a bang, the prairie flame sword was sent flying, and a tiny crack appeared on the dragon scale armor. Lord Linji, good job. Qin Xiling and the other sparring masters clapped their hands in delight. Qin Yan was also stunned. Then shame and indignation climbed onto his face. With a shake of his arm, the chain of attacks of the fire serpent spear came in a threatening manner. Lin Muyu controlled the prairie flame sword to block through the air. Ding ding ding, sparks flew. This set of attacks was completely blocked by Lin Muyu with the wall of the gourd. Qin Yan's attacks were too swift and fierce. If she did not block, it would be very easy to be injured. Furthermore, Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, and was also considered one of them. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she could not injure him. In the blink of an eye, an incense stick of time was almost finished. Lin Muyu's mystic tortoise shell was already riddled with holes, and a large portion of the dragon scale wall was also damaged. However, the Forbidden Mother Tree's recovery ability was currently constantly transforming battle chi into the mystic tortoise shell, and the dragon scale wall's defensive energy layer. Qin Yan's attacks had limited penetrative power, so he was naturally unable to defeat Lin Muyu. On the other hand, Lin Muyu only used Lightning Strike, Thunderous Frenzy, Imperial Wind Sword Art, and other sword arts to counterattack. She did not use True Dragon Essence Fire, Imperial Sword with Fire, or other moves with stronger destructive power. Therefore, she did not even manage to break through Qin Yan's shield armor. Lord Qin Yan, do your best. Many instructors who had just entered the Sacred Hall were all cheering for Qin Yan. They had entered the Sacred Hall with Qin Yan, and had long treated themselves as Prince Jining Palace's people. Therefore, they naturally would not stand on Lin Muyu's side. On the contrary, Guiyang, Zhang Wei, and the others who were familiar with Lin Muyu's moves all had faint smiles on their faces, because they could tell that even though Lin Muyu seemed to be at a disadvantage, he was actually going easy on Qin Yan, because the strongest killing move he had relied on to defeat Zhao Jin, Imperial Sword with Fire, was not even used. However, They did not know that Lin Muyu still had an even stronger ultimate art. 7 luminaries profound energy. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not dare to easily reveal the 7 luminaries profound energy in front of the world. After all, the 7 luminaries profound energy was too shocking. Furthermore, he did not know what kind of glorious history the 7 luminaries demon emperor had. If he were to reveal the 7 luminaries profound energy, there was a high possibility that he would attract a fatal disaster. The incense has burned out. End of battle. Guiyang used a trembling voice to announce, and said, the degree of damage to Lord Lin Ji's defensive layer has surpassed Lord Qin Yan's. Therefore, in this competition, Lord Qin Yan should have a slight advantage. Overall, it can be considered a draw. Lin Muyu raised his finger, controlling the prairie-burning sword through the air to return to its sheath. He cupped his fists and said, Little Prince, thanks for going easy on me. Qin Yan's face flushed slightly red. Nobody would have thought that he was only an 18-year-old youth, even younger than Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. An 18-year-old youth already had the cultivation of the heaven realm. How terrifying was that? Big brother Lin Ji, actually you won, I know. Don't think of me as a greedy person. Alright, I can teach you the most basic imperial sword arts, but only the most basic. Don't make me teach you anything else. You have to rely on your own comprehension. Qin Yan was wild with joy and nodded his head repeatedly. He immediately cupped his fists and bowed, saying, Many thanks, big brother Lin Ji. Due to Qin Yan calling him big brother, the people in the holy temple were all dumbstruck. Prince Ji Ning's little prince actually acknowledged him as big brother in the holy temple. This seemed to further solidify Lin Muyu's position as the #1 person in the younger generation of the holy temple. In the afternoon, after the normal training, he taught Qin Yan a mnemonic chant for imperial sword with the heart, letting him go cultivate on his own. Qin Yan was the same as his older brother, Qin Yan. After obtaining a mnemonic chant, he focused on learning in a room in the side hall. With his noble status, no one dared to disturb him either. Now that Lin Muyu was free, he directly left the holy temple. It was time to go visit Chu Yao in the spiritual medicine department. She hadn't seen this big sister for a long time. Her heart was so empty that she seemed to miss her quite a bit. Chapter 99. Black horse carriages transported medicinal ingredients into the spiritual medicine department. Dusk was the warehousing time for the spiritual medicine department. Large amounts of medicinal ingredients purchased from outside the city were being transported into the spiritual medicine department. Chu Yao and the other alchemists were in charge of refining these medicinal ingredients into high-grade healing medicines, gold wound medicine, stone skin medicine, etc., for the various armies of the empire to use. Lin Ji of the Divine Temple requests an audience with Miss Chu Yao of the Medicinal Medicine Department. At the registration area of the Spiritual Medicine Department, Lin Muyu said politely. The 2 guards recognized him. One of them smiled and said, It's Sir Lin Ji. Are you here to look for Miss Chu Yao again? Come in, no need to be so reserved. I heard that you defeated the Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin in the Ares College's public trial. That was really amazing. The entire capital is now talking about your legend. Is that so? Lin Muyu felt a little ashamed. She cupped her fists and smiled. I was just lucky. Thank you both. I'll be going in then? Go. Take good care of Miss Chu Yao. She is the #1 beauty of our spiritual medicine department. Many high-level alchemists and nobles wish to see her, but she seems to only want to see you. Lin Muyu stepped into the spiritual medicine department. She felt a warm feeling in her heart. The alchemy hall was brightly lit, and all the alchemists were busy refining their medicinal energy. From afar, they could see Chu Yao's graceful figure. Today, she was wearing a light green robe, and looked like she was floating in the air. Sister Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's call caused Chu Yao's body to tremble. She turned to look at Lin Muyu and couldn't help smiling happily. You. How come you have the time to come see me? Didn't I hear that you were in confinement? Last time I wanted to go see you, I was refused by the guards of the temple. They said that no one can see you. How heartless. Lin Muyu naturally knew that Raham was doing this to protect her. She walked up and sat on Chu Yao's refining table. She crossed her legs and said with a smile, "How's your alchemy going recently?" At the side, an old alchemist around 60 years old smiled and said, "Miss Chu Yao is the youngest saint alchemist here." "Ah, alchemist saint?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "Sister Chu Yao, you can refine level 7 medicine?" Chu Yao smiled shyly and nodded. "Yes, that's great." Lin Muyu was excited. She jumped off the refining table and hugged Chu Yao. Chu Yao's beautiful face instantly flushed red. She whispered, There are so many alchemists watching." "Oh, I'm sorry. I was too excited." Lin Muyu hurriedly put her down and apologized. "It's nothing." Chu Yao's voice was a little soft. Her beautiful eyes didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu. She whispered, "I thought you had already forgotten me after meeting Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin." How could that be? Even if Lin Muyu was a blockhead, he knew that Chu Yao was jealous. Although his heart was in a mess and he didn't know how to put these beauties in their positions, he still tried his best to appease each and every one of them, so he said, "Big sister Chu Yao will always be my good big sister. No matter what happens in the future, I will never forget you." "Oh right, how did you advance so fast?" Chu Yao nodded and whispered, "Yes, it's because of the divine alchemy cannon. I have already repaired some of the damaged parts of the cannon. That's why I was able to become an alchemist saint so quickly." "Oh, Grandpa has always wanted to become an alchemist saint. I didn't expect that I would achieve this wish in the end." Lin Muyu held her shoulders and said seriously, "If Grandpa knew your current cultivation, his spirit in heaven would definitely feel gratified. Moreover, Grandpa has already been avenged. He will be smiling in the netherworld." Yes. "Oh right, how is Sister Chu Yao's cultivation of the Imperial Sword technique?" Lin Muyu asked again. Just mastering alchemy is far from enough. After all, if you want to live well in this world, you still need to have a strong fist. Chu Yao giggled and said, "The Imperial Sword technique. I can only control the sword through the air for now, but I still can't truly grasp the heart of the sword. You tell me, how did you grasp the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights? I have been seriously cultivating for more than 10 days, and still haven't grasped it." Well, Lin Muyu couldn't say that it was because of her martial talent. She rubbed the back of her head and said with a smile, "It's probably because I didn't do it right. Continue to work hard, you will eventually comprehend it. As long as Sister Chu Yao grasps the heart of the sword, I can teach you the 4-elemental Imperial Sword technique." As he said this, he thought for a moment and continued, "The 4-elemental Imperial Sword technique is enough to raise your martial cultivation by a level. At least it will give you the ability to protect yourself." Chu Yao held his hand, her eyes filled with joy. Her beautiful eyes swept up and down Lin Muyu's handsome appearance in the temple's battle robe. She said, "Are you is now an expert of the temple? Even a level 70 heavenly king like Zhao Jin was defeated. You really surprised me. Your strength is now almost at the level of Big Brother and Big Brother Feng Jixing, right?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It was hard to say whether he could defeat Chu Huairan and Feng Jixing now. Feng Jixing's wind blade technique was elegant and domineering, while Chu Huairan's star-plucking finger was extraordinary. Furthermore, the two of them had never used their full strength against him before, so it was hard to say who would win. More importantly, Feng Jixing was the commander of the Imperial Guards, so he must have experienced many battles. In terms of battle experience alone, he probably surpassed Lin Muyu by a lot. So he smiled and said, "I don't know. Feng Jixing is a big brother that I will respect for my whole life. Chu Huairan is Sister Chu Yao's brother, so he is also my big brother. No matter who is stronger, I don't think we will have a chance to fight in this lifetime." Yes. Chu Yao smiled and said, "You haven't eaten yet, right? How about you eat with me tonight?" "Okay, it's my treat." "Okay." Chu Yao was now a medicine saint in the spiritual medicine department, so her salary wouldn't be bad. However, Lin Muyu's salary was even higher. As long as he was willing, he could quickly become rich in Lanyan City with his alchemy and weapon forging skills. However, money was just a number to him, and didn't have any practical meaning. No matter how rich he was, his own strength was the most important thing. He brought Chu Yao to eat a delicious meal in a small alley on the side of Heaven's Passage Street. Afterwards, they went to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. At night, the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce was even more lively. Outside the Chamber of Commerce, there were many shops selling gems. They sold all sorts of beautiful gems. These things were the favorites of the noble madams and misses. Although Chu Yao was beautiful, she wasn't interested in these things. Instead, she was more interested in the long swords in the weaponry department. Lin Muyu saw this and said, "Sister Chu Yao, you don't need to be jealous of those weapons. I will forge a good enough weapon for you soon. Don't worry, let's go buy the materials now." Yes. The diamond card user's status was noble, so she quickly found the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jin Xiaotang. This extremely beautiful young lady beamed with joy when she saw Lin Muyu. "Master Lin Ji, what do you need this time?" Her gaze landed on Chu Yao, revealing a trace of amazement, and said, "Wow, this time, Lord even brought a female companion." Cough, cough. Lin Muyu coughed, dispelling Chu Yao's awkwardness, and said, "Miss Jean, this time I came to ask for some high-level spirit stones and ironware. If you have them, please introduce them to me." "Okay, do you have any specific requirements?" "I need an ice spirit stone with a long lifespan. The rest is up to you." "Okay." Jin Xiaotang swayed her little, but as she walked in front and said with a smile, "Master Lin Ji's luck is not bad. The spirit stone store just received a batch of top-grade spirit stones from Lingnan. It is said that there is a 11,000-year-old frost qilin spirit stone. I wonder if Master Lin Ji is willing to pay a high price for it." "Oh, how much?" Jin Xiaotang raised 3 fingers and said with a smile, "I'll give you a discount, 30,000 Jin dollars. How about that?" "Ah." Lin Muyu looked at her inventory and said, "Not enough, I only have 20,000 Jin dollars. Can I buy it on credit?" Jin Xiaotang giggled as her eyes shone with wisdom. "Then you must first tell me, what do you need these spirit stones for?" "Weapon forging." "Weapon forging?" Jin Xiaotang blinked, her face full of shock. "What grade of weapon can Master Lin Ji forge?" "Mysterious grade, very low, right?" "No." Jin Xiaotang quickly shook her head and said, "If mysterious grade is still considered low, then I'm afraid the blacksmiths in the imperial capital will be embarrassed. How about this? I can buy it on credit, but Master Lin Ji has to give me a portion of the weapon after you forge it, and let me sell it in the auction house. This will increase the competitiveness of our auction house. Is Master willing?" "Okay, no problem." There was nothing better than a business that cost nothing. Jin Xiaotang smiled happily. This was business. She had the treasures that Lin Ji needed, and Lin Ji had the mysterious weapon forging skills that Jin Xiaotang needed. The transaction was immediately completed. When the 11,000-year-old spirit stone landed in her hand, a faint chill lingered in her palm. Lin Muyu clicked her tongue in wonder. Although it's very expensive, it is indeed a very valuable spirit stone. Jin Xiaotang giggled. "Of course. I heard that a mercenary group from Lingnan sent over 2,000 people to hunt it down. More than 300 people died because of this ice kirin, including a heavenly realm elite. Honestly, 30,000 Jinin coins is too cheap. You can't raise the price just like that." Lin Muyu said warily. Jin Xiaotang couldn't help but smile. "Xiaotang is a businessman, and I am trustworthy. Don't worry, Master Lin Ji." Thus, other than this spirit stone, Lin Muyu also bought an 8,000-year ice spirit stone on credit, as well as some rare 1,000-year black iron and spirit stones under 5,000 year. After buying a large cart of things, Jin Xiaotang gave him a horse carriage and told him to drive it back to the Saint Palace. He would first send Chu Yao back, then quickly return to the Saint Palace. It was time to become a weapon-forging grandmaster that would be respected by the world. Chapter 100. Deep in the night, the flickering flames in the secret chamber flickered faintly as the energy of the cauldron spread throughout the room. Lin Muyu closed his eyes as the energy of the spirit pulse technique rippled out. He could feel the aura closest to him, but it was not strong. It belonged to an ordinary person, Most likely a servant. This time, Lei Hong did not come over to peek at his training. Opening his palm, the pear blossom spear emitted a buzzing sound. This was a unique weapon, and even Lin Muyu could feel the chill from the long hilt. Lulu's body slowly flew out, and she said with a smile, "Wow, it's the 1,000 cold wrought iron." 1,000 cold wrought iron? Lin Muyu was surprised. Lulu nodded, flapping her transparent wings, and continued. The 1,000 cold wrought iron is a type of iron that has been condensed in a cold pond for thousands of years. It is extremely rare in the world, and it is also one of the few rare metals that contain cold spiritual energy. Big brother, this spear is a treasure. Although the soul refining energy is very weak, the iron within the spear itself is extremely rare. Just as I expected. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. In Zhao Jin's hands, the pear blossom spear was indeed a deadly weapon. It was just that Zhao Jin did not know the true value of the pear blossom spear. Using a grandmaster's blacksmithing technique and a powerful spirit stone to refine the soul, the grade of the pear blossom spear could be raised to a whole new level. And tonight would be the day of the pear blossom spear's reforging. With a light push of both hands, the pear blossom spear immediately entered the flames of the cauldron. The third layer of flame refining. Earth fire rose up, but it did not seem to be able to heat the spear very quickly. After burning for close to an hour, the pear blossom spear finally turned a fiery red. Lin Muyu did not dare to continue smelting it, or else the cold spiritual energy within the 1,000 cold wrought iron would run out. She hurriedly activated the earth fire and melted the spear. Just as the spear was about to be melted, a flood dragon spirit suddenly pounced on her. Roar! Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. This was a young water dragon with a lifespan of over 3,000 years. Its power was very limited, and it wasn't its match at all. Lin Muyu didn't even need to make a move. She just let out a low roar, and her battle chi surged out. Just by relying on the wind from her battle chi, the pear blossom spear was completely destroyed. At this point, the pear blossom spear had become an iron paste without a beast's soul. Hua hua! The fiery red iron paste flowed within the cauldron and was repeatedly refined. Streaks of fiery red starlight flew out, causing the iron quality of the spear to become even more refined. At the same time, Lin Muyu also took out the 11,000-year-old Frost Qilin Spirit Stone and placed it into the cauldron. She began to refine the Spirit Stone. With the two refining processes carried out at the same time, she was completely able to control it. The process of refining the Spirit Stone was even longer. After close to 3 hours, the Frost Qilin Spirit Stone finally began to slowly tremble, and the faint roar of a ferocious beast could be heard. Moreover, spiritual energy began to spread out in the surroundings, and a dense cold energy instantly enveloped the entire room. Even the stone bed at the side began to crackle with a layer of frost. The half-empty pot of wine on the table also cracked with a bang. Roar! Beast Soul Backlash. This was an unusually mighty ice qilin, and it was an adult spirit beast. Its body was covered in dark blue scales, and its pair of icy blue eyes were emotionless. It opened its mouth wide and charged towards Lin Muyu. Although it was only a beast spirit, the aura of a king that had descended from the heavens was unmistakable at this moment. "I've been waiting for you." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and raised her hand confidently. The burning prairie sword beside her was already prepared. It spun at high speed, and a spiral of true dragon essence fire slammed into the Frost Qilin's body before it could get close. The dragon flame spiral break's penetrative power was so strong that even the Frost Qilin's scales could not defend against it. In an instant, a huge spiritual energy wound was pierced through, but it still continued to roar and rush over. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. She never thought that the beast's soul contained in this 11,000-year-old spirit stone would be so strong. She hurriedly took a step back, and with her left fist, the 7 luminaries Xian energy danced as she shouted, "Chaos of the common people." Pung. The Frost Qilin's spiritual energy was shattered, but it could not stop its momentum. It raised its sharp claws and landed on Lin Muyu's left arm, leaving a terrible scratch on it. Frost quickly condensed on it. Lin Muyu frowned. Damn, an 11,000-year-old spirit beast is really abnormal like a monster. Her right fist trembled slightly, and a blood-red demonic energy surrounded it. Before the Frost Qilin could launch a second attack, she punched towards its chest. Two luminaries' demonic dance. Boom. An extremely strong impact rippled out from her fist, and directly blasted a big hole in the Frost Qilin's chest. The aftermath of the impact hit the inner wall of the treasure refining cauldron. Fortunately, they had the protection of the treasure refining cauldron. Otherwise, this attack from Lin Muyu would have turned the secret room into a pile of ruins. Roar, roar. The Frost Qilin roared angrily, but it no longer had any strength to resist. The fire was like a giant dragon that wrapped around it, refining it inch by inch into spiritual energy. Drop by drop, it fell into the molten iron formed by the pear blossom spear. In an instant, the scorching hot molten iron seemed to have cooled down a lot. The Frost Qilin's pure power of ice was not fake. A numb feeling came from her left arm, and Lin Muyu frowned. The Frost Qilin's attack was a bit ruthless, and the chill had already entered her body. She hurriedly circulated her combat chi to force the chill out. Fortunately, the heat in the treasure refining cauldron was very strong, or else she would have lost all feeling in this half of her body. As she healed herself, she reforged the pear blossom spear. Lulu redesigned the appearance of the pear blossom spear. The head of the spear was designed with a sharp triangular shape, giving it a murderous look. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, very meticulously sent her spiritual sense into the treasure refining cauldron to refine the spearhead repeatedly, turning the design of the spearhead into layers of blades. Although it did not look any different at first glance, in fact there were at least 100 layers of blades. Each layer of blades supported each other, greatly reducing the force of impact, greatly reducing the wear and tear on the spearhead, and also making the spearhead tougher and sharper. After almost half an hour of reforging, the pear blossom spear was reforged. It was even sharper than before, and contained an endless chill. When the light from the treasure refining cauldron disappeared, the fiery red pear blossom spear actually cooled down by itself. The Frost Qilin beast's soul appeared on the spearhead, and with a roar, its spirit chi turned into snowflakes that floated down. With a pop, the heavy pear blossom spear fell into Lin Muyu's hand. Waves of chill seeped into her palm, and Lin Muyu could feel the Frost Qilin beast's soul responding to his feelings. Because this spear was personally reforged by him, he could use the pear blossom spear more smoothly than anyone else. The Frost Qilin's power would be restrained and released according to his strength, which was very magical. Wiping away the sweat on his forehead, Lin Muyu said with a smile, "It's finally done. Lulu, what rank is this pear blossom spear now?" Lulu flapped her wings and flew slowly around his shoulder. She said with a smile, "According to the ranking of the Empire's armory, this pear blossom spear's spirit refining effect, frost iron purity, overall toughness, and sharpness should all belong to the 6th level saint rank." 6th level saint rank? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. "Is it very powerful?" Lulu giggled. "The number of saint rank weapons on this continent is very rare, and there are less than 100 of them. Brother, do you think this pear blossom spear is powerful?" "Then it must be quite powerful." Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. If he took this pear blossom spear to the armory, it would definitely fetch a price of more than 100,000 Jinin coins. Money came so easily, but he didn't seem to need that much money. Moreover, he still understood the principle of a man's wealth being his own ruin, so it was better for the pear blossom spear not to appear easily in front of experts. Thus, he wrapped the pear blossom spear in black cloth, and placed it in a corner of the secret room. Then he began to forge the weapon for Chu Yao. 8,000 years old frost spirit stone, and a sufficient amount of 1,000-year dark iron were all very rare materials. It took almost 2 hours to complete. Its shape and design were somewhat similar to the pear blossom spear. The design of the sword hilt was like a budding pear blossom. The blade was like blood and had 3 blood grooves. With a light flick, it would let out a melodious sword cry. "Sister Chu Yao will definitely like this pear blossom sword," he said happily. Lulu flew to the side and said with a smile, "4th level mysterious rank, it's about the same as brother's prairie fire sword." He placed the pear blossom sword at the side and looked at the materials. There was still a lot of 1,000-year dark steel left, and there were various kinds of spirit stones between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. He began to forge them one by one. Because swords were more economical in materials, he used all of them to forge swords. Moreover, swords were the most popular weapons in the empire, and they were worth a lot when sold. It would be a waste if they were used to forge battle axes, long knives, and other long-handled weapons. All the work was only completed when the sun rose. A total of 5 swords were forged, and they were named according to their appearance and spirit stone's attributes. Alcade, first-level spirit grade, light attribute Frostgoose, second-level spirit grade, ice attribute Heavenly Sound, second-level spirit grade, ice attribute Thunderslash, second-level spirit grade, lightning attribute Swift Wind, third-level spirit grade, wind attribute. He wrapped all the swords in black cloth without even preparing a scabbard. Lin Muyu had already made up his mind. According to the agreement, he would sell these swords to Jin Xiaotong's auction house, and he really needed money now. If he sold these swords at a low price to the Divine Sanctum, he might not even have the money to exchange for the 30,000 Jin coins he owed Jin Xiaotong. He hurriedly ate his breakfast and packed the 5 swords into the backpack on the warhorses, but then he turned around and used the white cloak of the Divine Sanctum's battle robe to cover the swords. Just like that, he went to the trading house in the capital with hope. Although these 5 swords were not rare, they were definitely not the inferior weapons circulating in the market. They could definitely be sold for a good price. Chapter 101. Uncle Wang, how is it? Have you appraised it? Jin Xiaotong, who was dressed in a long white dress, urged the appraiser beside her with a smile. Wang Jinyan, the #1 weapon appraiser of the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, was a middle-aged man in his 50s. He pressed his hand on the thunder slash and poured his true qi into the blade. Immediately, there was a strong reaction. Streaks of lightning appeared on the blade. After feeling it for nearly 10 seconds, he opened his eyes and said, "Miss, this thunder slash is a second-stage spirit grade." Jin Xiaotong couldn't help but clap her hands and chuckle. "Wow, a high-grade spirit grade sword. That's great." She looked at Lin Muyu excitedly and asked, "Master Lin Ji, how did you do it?" There are many blacksmiths in the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, but they can only forge 7th-stage spirit grade weapons with 4,000 years old spirit stones and 1,000 years old dark steel. How did you forge a 2nd-stage spirit grade weapon? I can't reveal it. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. He didn't want to talk about it, and Jin Xiaotong didn't ask. This deputy chief of the Capital Chamber of Commerce was shrewd beyond his age. He knew how to read people's expressions and weigh the pros and cons. To the Capital Chamber of Commerce, Lin Muyu was a cash cow. Moreover, he was a mysterious expert. This kind of person was priceless and couldn't be offended easily. At this time, Wang Jinyan moved his hand away from the alcade and said with a shocked expression, "Young mistress, this alcade is a 1st-stage spirit grade." A 1st-stage spirit grade. Jin Xiaotong couldn't help but be speechless and said with a smile, "That's great, Uncle Wang. Go and tell the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to spread the news that there will be an auction this afternoon. And the main focus will be these 5 spirit grade swords. I believe many rich young masters won't let go of this opportunity." "Yes." Jin Xiaotong turned around happily and looked at Lin Muyu. She said with a smile, "Master Lin Ji, I can't give you money for now, but can I invite you to the auction this afternoon? These 5 swords will be sold publicly. If necessary, we will introduce you to the blacksmith master." "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I only want money. Everything else is not important. Miss Jean, please don't tell anyone about me. If I have any good weapons in the future, I will sell them here." "All right, little Tang understands. Then I will come to get the money after dinner." "Okay." Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Palace just in time for the morning training. Her opponent was Li Mingyi, the new Golden Star instructor, who had just joined the Holy Palace. However, he was only a battle saint, 1 level lower than Lin Muyu. Therefore, he was no match for Li Mingyi. Moreover, Li Mingyi had witnessed Lin Muyu's 4 elemental sword kinesis manipulation, and was deeply shocked by it. Naturally, he respected Lin Muyu very much. Thus, the morning's training was boring. Even when Lin Muyu was sparring with Li Mingyi, Lin Muyu was secretly cultivating the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll to increase the purity of his do qi. After the training was over, everyone gathered in the hall of the trial hall. Guyang walked over while trembling and said, "Dear lords of the Holy Palace, I have some news to announce. Our Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin has recovered from his injuries and has returned to the Holy Palace." At the entrance, Zhao Jin walked over wearing the Holy Palace's battle robe. However, because his right arm was cut off by Lin Muyu, his sleeves were empty. He looked out of place. His face was filled with killing intent. He held a new spear in his left hand and walked in step by step. He looked at Lin Muyu coldly and said, "Lord Linji, you didn't expect that I, Zhao Jin, would return to the Holy Palace, did you?" Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You are a member of the Holy Palace. What's so strange about your return?" Zhao Jin held the spear with one arm and sneered, "Linji, do you think that I, Zhao Jin, have become a cripple after losing an arm? Just you wait, I will make you pay for what I lost." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu raised an eyebrow and said, "You wanted to kill me first in Ares College's trial grounds. Then don't blame me for not being courteous. If you want to take revenge, I will accompany you anytime." "You." Zhao Jin was exasperated. Just at this time, a person walked out from the Gold Star instructor. It was Qin Yan who was carrying the fire serpent spear. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lord Zhao Jin, you still want to challenge Lin Ji after losing an arm? If you really don't fear death, I, Qin Yan, am willing to accompany you. I will be very happy to send you to hell." "Qin Yan, young lord." Zhao Jin's face turned cold. Qin Yan's status was completely different from Lin Muyu. He was a first-class noble. Even if Qin Yan killed him, there would not be any heavy punishment. Moreover, Zhao Jin also did not expect that Qin Yan would come to the Holy Palace. For a moment, he held his spear and did not know whether to advance or retreat. Guyang said loudly, "All right, don't quarrel anymore. Whatever grudges in the past are already in the past. Since you have entered the Holy Palace, you have to abide by the rules of the Holy Palace, and are not allowed to fight privately. Otherwise, you will be expelled according to the Holy Palace's laws. Understood?" Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists in unison and said, "Yes, head deacon." Zhao Jin glared at Lin Muyu hatefully, and did not say anything else either. He carried his spear and returned to the team. There was nothing to do in the afternoon, so Lin Muyu slept soundly in the secret chamber for the entire afternoon, making up for the sleep lost from staying up late to forge swords the night before, all the way until it was close to dusk. After finishing dinner, he spurred his horse out of the Holy Palace and headed straight for the Imperial Capital Trading Company. Only after entering the trading company did he discover that there seemed to be more people than usual today. Jin Xiaotang came out from the main hall to welcome him with a smile and said, "Lord Linji, you've come? How was the auction?" he asked. "It was very popular." Jin Xiaotang walked forward happily and didn't try to avoid arousing suspicion. She held onto Lin Muyu's arm and said with a smile, "Lord Linji, your 5 swords have attracted at least 3,000 customers. Even the commander of the Imperial Army, Lord Qinlei, has come. He bought that first-tier spirit-grade alcade for 10,000 Jining coins." Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Qinlei actually wanted this sword. It looked like she would have to forge an even stronger sword in the future, and gift it to this big brother who had once gone through life and death with her. "What's the total value?" "The total value of the 5 swords is 37,000 Jining coins. I'll take 10% of the cost and round it up to a round number. I'll give you 34,000 Jining coins. Here, this is 34 diamond coins." Jin Xiaotang took out a heavy bag. Lin Muyu smiled and only took 4 diamond coins. He returned the rest to Jin Xiaotang and said with a smile, "I bought a lot of materials before on credit, so these 30,000 Jining coins still belong to Miss Jin." Jin Xiaotang blinked and said, "Lord Linji, didn't you also buy 11,000-year spirit stone and an 800-year spirit stone? Why don't I see the weapons of these 2 beast spirits?" About this, Lin Muyu felt a bit helpless and didn't know how to answer. At this time, Jin Xiaotang's gaze landed on the pear blossom sword in his hand and couldn't help but exclaim, This sword, can you let Shouting take a look? Yes. Lin Wuyu handed over the sword. Jin Shouting unsheathed the sword with a clang. The sword's blade was as bright as moonlight, and when she infused it with true energy, she found that the power of frost condensed into ice flowers dancing around the blade. It was extremely beautiful, and she couldn't help but gape. Wow! Lord Linji, what is the origin of this sword? It's so beautiful and it's too strong. Shouting has never seen a sword like this before. This is mysterious rank, right? Yes. Lin Wuyu nodded and said, it's a third-level mysterious rank sword called the Pear Blossom Sword. I made it for my friend, so it can't be sold in the auction house for now. Moreover, I've bought almost all the high-grade spirit stones in the auction house. Jin Shouting giggled. You don't need to worry about spirit stones. Shouting will have people collect spirit stones from all over the world. Once there are spirit stones over 5,000 years old, I'll inform you. Is that okay? Lin Wuyu helplessly said. Miss Shouting, forging these swords has already exhausted me to the point of exhaustion. Forging weapons is a very tiring matter. You can't continue to squeeze me like this. All right. Jin Shouting clasped her hands behind her back like a girl next door and smiled. Then, if there are any high-grade spirit stones, I'll keep them and wait for Lord Linji to purchase them. How about it? And all right. After leaving the Imperial Trading Company, he went straight to the Spirit Medicine Department. It was time to give the Pear Blossom Sword to Chu Yao. At night, the Spirit Medicine Department was brightly lit. Purple lanterns flickered with a bewitching luster. Lin Wuyu hugged the Pear Blossom Sword wrapped in a black cloth. The Pear Blossom Sword was a mysterious rank treasure sword. At night, it would emit a luster. Normally, this kind of treasured weapon could be recognized at a glance. Therefore, it was wrapped in a white cloth. The alchemists had finished their tasks for the day, and were already resting. Chu Yao's room was in the southern courtyard of the medicine refining hall. There were a total of 4 rooms and 4 alchemists lived there. However, only Chu Yao was a girl. Even so, nothing bad would happen. After all, there were guards outside every courtyard. The Spirit Medicine Department was the cradle of high-grade alchemists in the imperial capital. For the Empire, the Spirit Medicine Department was a treasure. They would definitely be willing to spend money to protect these unarmed alchemists. Within the courtyard, there was a crabapple tree that emitted a faint fragrance. Chu Yao stood at the foot of the tree, looking like a proud jade tree made of ice and snow. Strands of true energy flowed around her, and an iron sword floated in the air beside her, slowly rotating. Dong dong dong. Lin Wuyu knocked on the door and said with a smile, Sister Chu Yao? Ah. Chu Yao suddenly opened her eyes. Her heart was in a mess. Naturally, the ability to use her heart to control the sword disappeared. The iron sword fell on the stone floor with a dang sound. She turned around and opened the door. She said with a smile, Why are you so late? Lin Wuyu mysteriously patted the cloth in her hands and said, I brought you a gift. What? See for yourself. Chu Yao took the gift and opened the cloth layer by layer. When the transparent and resplendent pear blossom sword came into view, her delicate body suddenly trembled. Her eyes revealed a misty luster. This is... Chapter 102. This sword was forged from 1,000-year iron and 8,000-year spirit stones. Because it is of the ice attribute and has a unique design, I named it Pear Blossom Sword. Lin Wuyu said with a smile. I even reforged Zhao Jin's Pear Blossom Spear. Its design is very similar to this sword, so the sword and the spear should be a set. Chu Yao blushed and said happily, This Pear Blossom Sword is really a set with the Pear Blossom Spear? Of course, what do you think? If I didn't have the Prairie Fire Sword, I really wouldn't bear to give this Pear Blossom Sword to you, he said half-jokingly. Chu Yao caressed the sword lovingly and said, What grade is this Pear Blossom Sword? 4th level Mystic grade. Chu Yao was shocked. 4th level Mystic grade? I heard that. Mystic grade weapons are very expensive, at least 10,000 Jining coins. As she said this, she handed the Pear Blossom Sword back and said, Such a precious sword. Why don't you sell it? It's too much of a waste for me to use. I'll just use a spirit-grade weapon. Lin Wuyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly and said, Sister Chu Yao, what's so precious about a mere 4th-level mystic-grade pear blossom sword? As long as I want it, I can forge countless pear blossom swords. Keep it. This sword was specially designed for you. How can you not want it? Then all right. Chu Yao gripped the hilt tightly, feeling her heart beating wildly. She said again, I'm about to comprehend the heart of the sword. Really? Yes. Chu Yao nodded seriously and then closed her eyes. Streams of blade-like true energy flowed on the surface of her body. This was indeed the initial form of the heart of the sword. Lin Wuyu couldn't help but laugh. Sister Chu Yao's talent is indeed not bad. When you truly comprehend the heart of the sword, you can go and fuse with the beast soul inside the pear blossom sword. When you complete this step, I'll teach you the 4-elemental sword kinesis. Yes, all right. Without staying for too long, Lin Wuyu left the spirit medicine division. At this time, she suddenly felt a strong sense of weakness. Finally, after forging so many weapons in one night, her physical strength and combat chi were overdrawn. Without thinking too much about it, she lay down on the stone bed and fell into a deep sleep. He was in a daze for an unknown period of time before he slowly woke up. Gigi. As far as the eye could see, a gray rat was looking up at Lin Wuyu from the corner of the wall. Surprisingly, it wasn't afraid of people. Lin Wuyu, who had just woken up, happened to be at its peak. The cultivation of the spirit pulse technique had caused the power of his soul to surge endlessly. At that moment, it was as if his spiritual sense was about to condense into a focal point. Lin Wuyu couldn't help but be stunned. He then guided his spiritual sense to gather together, and used it to attack the mouse in the corner like a sharp knife. Gee! The mouse's cry came to an abrupt halt. Its pupils rapidly enlarged, and it unexpectedly stopped there motionlessly. Lin Wuyu was a little surprised. He turned over and got off the bed. He walked in front of the mouse and lowered his head to look at it. He found that the mouse seemed to be in a daze. It actually didn't move at all. After a full 10 seconds, it finally made a GG sound again. Then, it turned around and went back into the mouse hole behind it. What's going on? Lin Wuyu muttered to himself. His mind recalled everything that had just happened. The spirit pulse technique actually gathered his spiritual sense to attack others. Could it be that this was the method of using mental strength to attack? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but become excited. He hurriedly washed up and went to the holy temple. He had to find someone to practice it on. Lord Linji. Zhang Wei walked over with a saber in his hand. He said with a smile, You woke up so early. Yes, Lord Zhang Wei. Lin Wuyu's heart moved. He smiled and said, Lord Zhang Wei, I want to ask you for a favor. Stand here and don't move. Okay. Zhang Wei stood in front of him and said with a smile, I don't know what you want to do. Lin Wuyu did not say anything. Her expression was extremely solemn. Suddenly, she activated the spirit pulse technique and focused her spiritual perception on one point, attacking Zhang Wei's brain. It was also at this moment that Zhang Wei's entire body seemed to have been petrified. However, this process was extremely short, not even half a second. He was stunned for a moment and asked, What happened? What did you feel just now? Lin Wuyu asked. Zhang Wei was stunned. He scratched his head and said, I just felt that my mind suddenly went blank. I don't know what happened. Lord Linji, what did you do to me just now? No, nothing. Lin Wuyu laughed. He was thinking that the spirit pulse technique's mental attack would be much less effective against people with a stronger soul. Zhang Wei's soul was obviously much stronger than the mouse's, so it could only attack him for less than half a second. It seemed that there was still a long way to go before the spirit pulse technique could be used in actual combat. Early in the morning, Guiyang took the scroll and started to announce the pairs for the morning training. But after he finished, he didn't call out Lin Wuyu and Zhang Wei's names. Zhang Wei couldn't help but ask, Deacon Guiyang, did you forget about me and Lord Linji? Guiyang laughed. No, although this old man is old, I still won't forget the two of you. Linji, Zhang Wei, the two of you will go out for a mission this morning. Oh. Lin Wuyu was stunned. After entering the temple, Other than the daily training, there weren't many missions. This was the first time. So she asked, "What mission, Grandpa Guyang?" Guyang stroked his beard and laughed, "Simple. The two of you will bring 50 temple guards to the Ministry of War's military warehouse to collect the weapons, rations and salaries for the next 3 months." Yes. After exiting the training hall, there was already a group of guards waiting outside. The so-called temple guards were the soldiers who carried out the mission of guarding the temple. These soldiers didn't belong to the temple directly, but they lived in the temple all year round to serve as instructors and sparring partners. Currently, there were more than 200 temple guards in the temple, which was considered a military force. "Sir, the carriage is ready. This is the Grand Deacon's approval." A guard walked up and handed Lei Hong's approval to Lin Muyu. It was as if he had tacitly agreed that Lin Muyu was the leader of the group, and not Zhang Wei. However, Zhang Wei wasn't angry. He knew that he had acted rashly, and Lin Muyu was more suitable to carry out this mission. "Let's go, lead the way." Yes. Leaping onto the horse, the group left the temple in a grandiose manner. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei were both wearing the temple's battle robes, giving off a heroic aura. As the group walked along Tong Tian Street, they attracted a lot of attention. The military warehouse was to the north of the imperial city. When the group from temple arrived, they discovered that it was filled with people. Other than the temple, there were also many soldiers waiting to distribute the rations. Outside of the military warehouse, there were people shouting and horses neighing. Rows of heavy cavalry galloped past, creating a chaotic scene. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What do we do now?" "This subordinate will go and hand in the document." A temple guard said. "Good." Outside the military warehouse was a temporary camp. The temple guard rode his horse away, and not long after he entered the camp, he returned with a face full of anger and shame, and the document in his hand was still tightly gripped. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked. The temple guard said angrily, "That bastard military officer is purposely making things difficult for us. He wants us to queue up a little longer, and the temple's army needs to wait for the God Might Battalion to finish distributing the rations." "On what basis?" Zhang Wei's temper flared up and he said angrily, "The God Might Battalion is the private army of the Divine Marquis residents. They should not be receiving rations from the imperial capital, and they actually arrange for them to be in front of the temple. Don't the Ministry of War know that there are no restrictions on the temple's rations?" The guard said in a low voice, "Master Zhang Wei, it must be because the temple did not give them any benefits. That's why they are purposely making things difficult for us." Preposterous. Zhang Wei raised his blade and charged into the military warehouse. Lin Muyu did not even have time to stop him and hurriedly said, "Men, follow me." "Yes." He hurriedly led dozens of temple guards and chased after Zhang Wei, but when Lin Muyu arrived at the front of the tent, he heard a bang, and immediately saw a person flying out from the tent, spitting out blood, and his chest was covered in flames. It was obviously caused by Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist. Voila! Zhang Wei quickly stepped out of the tent. His fists were surrounded by the power of his martial spirit, and he said in a low voice, "You dog official, if we don't give you gold, you dare to make things difficult for the temple." The military officer looked like a rat, and hurriedly shouted, "Murder, murder, the temple's instructor is going to commit murder in broad daylight. You still dare to howl?" Zhang Wei raised his fist and was about to hit him, but Lin Muyu hurriedly got off the horse and blocked Zhang Wei's fist, and said, "Calm down, Zhang Wei. This despicable person, I will teach him a lesson today." Zhang Wei's explosive temper was completely out of control, and he angrily scolded, "Why does the Divine Might Battalion have to collect their military supplies before the temple? It is obvious that we came first. What is the Divine Might Battalion? What right do they have to be so arrogant?" At this time, a cold voice suddenly came from the right. "Yo, the temple's gold star instructor Zhang Wei, your fists are indeed explosive, but your temper is even more explosive. You really don't know your place." Lin Muyu looked over, and when he saw a group of soldiers from the God Might Battalion marching over aggressively under the leadership of a general, he already knew that things were not looking good. Walking forward quickly, Lin Muyu cupped his fists and said, "Sir, Temple's Lin Ji apologizes to you here." "Lin Ji." The person who came was a middle-aged military officer around the age of 30. His eyes were reserved, and his steps were steady. He was obviously an expert. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he said, "You are the Lin Ji who crippled Zhao Kuang's arm? How awe-inspiring." Lin Muyu replied coldly, "Sir, Zhang Wei did not mean to offend you. Since the Divine Might Battalion wants to collect their supplies first, then you guys can go first." The man suddenly laughed out loud. "You put it so nicely, you beat up the military officer. Are you trying to walk away? Then what do you want?" Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. He suddenly pulled out the prairie fire sword and said indifferently, "Temple has fewer people, but that does not mean that they are afraid of you." The 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion was not someone who was easy to deal with. He pulled out the sword by his waist and bellowed, "Men, go and seize the weapons of the Temple's army." Chapter 103. Dang Dang Dang. The group of steel guards from the God Prestige Battalion pulled out their swords and sabers. Each of them had a fierce look on their faces. Many of them had already released their martial spirits. The glow of their beast martial spirits and tool martial spirits merged together, as their zhenqi penetrated through their swords, revealing their sharpness. Zhang Wei unsheathed the sword on his waist, and his fire bear martial spirit roared, causing his cloak to flutter. Waves of wind swept out in all directions. This gold star instructor from the temple had an arrogant look on his face, and he growled at the 1,000-man commander of the God Might Battalion. "Sikongnan, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because the Divine Marquis thinks highly of you. Don't forget, the temple has special permission from His Majesty to have priority in obtaining military equipment." Sikongnan laughed out loud. The shadow of a purple longsword appeared on the blade of his sword. It was his martial soul. It was surging with power, and the blade was surrounded by a thick layer of battle energy. Lin Muyu remained silent. She looked at Sikongnan and the increasing number of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion. Sikongnan was the strongest in this group. He was at the first sky of the Heaven Realm. The rest were 2/3 sky of the Earth Realm Battle Saints. Behind them were dozens of second sky of the Earth Realm Battle Venerables. Although this was only the tip of the iceberg of the Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan's strength, it was still enough to make people speechless. More than half of the soldiers had martial souls, and dozens of them had reached the Earth Realm. It was no wonder that the 5,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion could withstand the 30,000 soldiers of the Imperial Army. "Seize their weapons for me." Sikongnan let out a fierce roar, and the do qi on his blade became more and more intense. Dang! At the moment when the swords were drawn, Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out the burning prairie sword. Infusing her battle energy, the fire dragon sword spirit let out a low roar. The flames turned into a wave of heat that blew out in all directions. In an instant, the Divine Might Battalion soldiers at the front were forced to take a few steps back. They couldn't even withstand the impact of Lin Muyu's aura. "We are from the Divine Temple. Whoever dares to seize our weapons, come and try. If you want to seize the weapons of the Divine Temple, you will have to step over my dead body first." Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. The indigo martial spirit gourd emerged from her body and formed a protective barrier around the sacred hall battle robe. Sikongnan sneered. "Lin Ji, you still dare to show your measly 10th grade martial spirit? Aren't you afraid that others will laugh their heads off? Men, disarm them by force." A group of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion rushed over, each of them wielding a long sword in their hands. Their martial souls howled, and in the next moment, more than 10 beams of sword qi turned into rays of light as they shot towards Lin Fan. Courting death. Zhang Wei roared, and his sword swept out with the flame force of the fire bear martial soul. "Zhang Wei, don't kill them!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, and at the same time, she raised her do qi to strengthen the protective barrier. In the next moment, countless beams of sword qi shot out from the gourd's walls. Streaks of sword qi flew around like bullets, and at the same time, Sikongnan's long sword had already struck out like a poisonous snake. With a pung sound, it pierced a hole in the black tortoise shell. Do qi continuously surged towards the protective barrier, and Lin Muyu almost instantly repaired the black tortoise shell. At the same time, she leaped up, raised the burning prairie sword, and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. Humph! Sikong Nan snorted coldly, and his long sword blocked the burning prairie sword's attack. However, at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly released her hand, and the burning prairie sword pierced towards Sikong Nan from a strange angle. This move was too fast and accurate, and Sikong Nan was caught off guard. Pung! The protective barrier formed by Do Chi suddenly collapsed, and Sikong Nan retreated a few steps. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes, but his reaction speed was extremely fast. The edge of his sword abruptly collided upwards, and with a ding sound, the burning prairie sword was knocked away. Sikong Nan's body flashed, and the long sword carried a blood-red glow as it slashed towards the area between Lin Muyu's neck. This was a killing blow. This sword was astonishingly fast, but Lin Muyu's speed was even faster. A starlight flashed under her feet, and the falling star steps was activated in an instant. At the same time that Sikong Nan's sword missed, he saw Lin Muyu raise her arm and punch into the distance. Pung! The demonic sonic fist, which carried the glow of Do Chi, pierced through the crowd, and forced 3 soldiers of the God Might Battalion to retreat. However, Lin Muyu clearly didn't want to kill anyone here, so she didn't directly use the demonic sonic fist to attack their vitals. Otherwise, none of them would have been able to dodge it. The demonic sonic fist wrapped around her right fist, and with a flick of her left hand, the burning prairie sword in the air transformed into a beam of fiery light, and shot towards Sikong Nan. Amidst the deafening sound of the sword clashing, Sikong Nan retreated several steps. At this moment, his heart was extremely shaken, and he thought to himself, "What kind of divine being is this kid? He can actually do 2 things at the same time." The fiery spiral of Do Chi is so domineering that it actually caused my arms to go numb. What a freak! On the side, Zhang Wei's sword skills were unrestrained. In addition to the attacks of Lin Muyu and the Templar Knights, close to 100 soldiers of the God Might Battalion had been injured, and more than 20 Templar Knights had been injured. The green brick floor of the quartermaster's quarters was already stained with blood. The crowd was getting more and more ferocious. Just when it looked like someone was about to die, a thunderous roar suddenly came from outside. "All of you stop!" Hua! A beam of golden light shot out, carrying with it a biting cold chi. It was the God binding chains. Not good. Sikong Nan hurriedly turned around, but the God binding chains were already in front of him. He hurriedly raised his long sword horizontally to block, but was forced to retreat a few steps. Blood had already spilled out from the corner of his mouth, but he did not get angry. Instead, his expression became respectful, and he shouted loudly, "All of you stop!" Lin Muyu also signaled for the people of the Templar Knights to stop. Zhang Wei revealed a resentful expression. He had not fought enough. At this moment, Qin Lei galloped over on his horse. He carried the thunder split blade, and behind him was a group of Imperial guards. His face was ashen as he dismounted from his horse. He looked at the people of the God Might Battalion and the Templar Knights, and said coldly, "What exactly is going on?" Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Commander Qin, the Golden Star instructor of the Templar Knights, Zhang Wei, acted recklessly in the quartermaster's quarters, and actually injured the quartermaster. I went up to reason things out, but he actually wanted to beat me up as well." Qin Lei looked at him with a fierce gaze, and said, "Zhang Wei is only at the 3rd level of the Earth realm. Would he dare to beat you, who is at the Heaven realm? He really dared to beat me up." Lin Muyu secretly thought, then cupped his fists and said, "Commander Qin Lei, the quartermaster was negligent first, and actually made the people of the Templar Knights wait for a long time without giving us any weapons. That's why Master Zhang Wei's words and actions were so extreme, and made such an unwise move. As for General Sikong Nan of the God Might Battalion, he gave the order to seize the weapons of the soldiers of the Templar Knights." "Is that so?" Qin Lei raised his eyebrows, looked at Sikong Nan and said, "General Sikong Nan is so impressive, to even dare to seize the weapons of the Templar Knights. It seems that you have already forgotten the words of the founding emperor. No one can seize the weapons of the people of the Templar Knights." As he said that, Qin Lei laughed coldly and said, "Sikong Nan, if I were to report this matter to His Majesty, what do you think will happen to you?" Sikong Nan's face instantly turned pale, and he hurriedly knelt down on one knee and said, "Commander Qin, I did not do anything like seizing weapons. I hope that Master will investigate this clearly. This is just a misunderstanding. Furthermore, how would the God Might Battalion dare to offend the Templar Knights?" "That's good." Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade and walked step by step to the front of the quartermaster. He raised his hand, and an invisible force lifted the quartermaster up. His face was pale, and he hurriedly begged for mercy. "Commander Qin Lei, I won't dare to do it again. I won't dare to do it again." Qin Lei smiled indifferently. "What is there that a lowly person like you wouldn't dare to do? Men, bring him down, and send him to the Fire Sparrow Division to interrogate this bastard. The quartermaster will be replaced. Remember, no one is allowed to neglect the people of the Templar Knights, or else they will be the enemy of the great Qin clan." Everyone was solemn, and they saluted one after another. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei checked the injuries of the Templar Knights. They were all light injuries. The people of the God Might Battalion also had a sense of propriety, and did not use any powerful weapons like crossbows, or else it would not be as simple as light injuries. You have recently offended the Divine Marquis Palace. You must be careful." Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade, and stood next to Lin Muyu. "And thank you, big brother Qin Lei this time." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "But if the people of the Divine Marquis Palace want to touch me, I'm afraid I won't be able to hide. I can only take it one step at a time." "Oh right, my brother Qin Yan has also entered the Templar to train. Have you seen him?" "Ha, I've seen him. Qin Yan's cultivation is not bad, and he is also not bad." "Haha, that kid is obsessed with martial arts, but neglects to socialize. You have to teach him more. Also, the God Might Battalion has been in the capital for too long. You should avoid them if you can. This group of people rely on the support of the Divine Marquis to look down on everyone. If not for the fact that my father is Prince Ji Ning, I'm afraid there would have been a battle today." And not long after, a batch of weapons and rations were transported out from the quartermaster's warehouse and loaded onto the carriage, while Qin Lei escorted the people of the Templar Knights back to the Templar Palace. Late at night, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei and the rest participated in the Templars' weekly night training, all the way until the evening. Dong dong dong. Intense knocking sounds came from outside as if very anxious. "Who is it?" A Templar guard walked forward, and when he opened the door, he saw a cluster of torches and the intense sound of horse hooves. Under the light of the torches, 1,000-man commander rushed in with a long sword in hand, opened his palm, and turned his fighting aura into a vast palm energy, directly knocking the Templar guard unconscious. He raised a scroll in his hand and shouted, "Sikong Nan is under orders to capture the Imperial Court's serious criminal Lin Muyu." "Who is it?" Zhang Wei walked out of the inner hall with a long sword in hand, followed by a few instructors and a group of Templar guards. "Sikong Nan, what are you doing?" When he saw Sikong Nan's face under the torches, Zhang Wei could not restrain his anger. Sikong Nan shook the scroll in his hand and said, "The God Might Battalion investigated openly and secretly, and confirmed that the Golden Star sparring master Lin Ji is the Lin Muyu who killed Silver Fir City's city guard. The evidence is irrefutable, and we are here to arrest him." "You dare?" Zhang Wei growled, his martial soul already emerging from his body. "Men." Sikong Nan's face was ashen and he said indifferently, "Archers." Behind him, hundreds of archers drew their bows in unison, the sharp arrowheads glinting coldly under the light of the torches. Chapter 104. Heavy Shields. Zhang Wei bellowed. Immediately, dozens of temple guards raised their heavy shields in front of them. Sikong Nan laughed coldly. "Fire!" Xiao xiao xiao. Rays of cold light flew in the hall and landed on the shields. At the same time, a few temple guards were hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. Fresh blood instantly flowed on the stone floor. Zhang Wei flew to the front of the shield formation and with a shout, he threw his long blade. Pooh! 2 archers were instantly pierced through and nailed to the door of the temple guards. "Zhang Wei!" Sikong Nan bellowed and flew over with his sword. Battle chi shone on his armor. With a slight twist of his arm, He slashed out several times. Zhang Wei, on the other hand, was almost empty-handed. He could only use the fiery soul fist to block the blade. After one round, his arms were already covered in wounds. After all, the difference in strength was too great. One was at the earth realm, and the other was at the heaven realm. Pooh! The archers of the God Might Battalion were too accurate. Zhang Wei's arm was hit by an arrow in the blink of an eye, adding another injury to his injury. He was struck by Sikong Nan's sword and fell back onto the shield wall. It was a tragic sight. At this time, a figure flew over from the inner hall. An indigo light illuminated the surroundings. In a rage, Lin Muyu threw her demon noise blade to save Zhang Wei. The demon noise blade screeched in the night sky and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. This was a fatal blow. As a heaven realm superhuman, Sikong Nan's senses were extraordinary. Before the demonic sound saber even arrived, he already sensed the fierce glare. He quickly lowered his head, and with a clang, a large piece of the iron helmet on his head was cut off. Lin Muyu sprinted over, using falling star steps to stand in front of the temple guards. She opened her palm and condensed the walls of a gourd, deflecting the incoming arrows with a dang-dang-dang sound. At the same time, she raised her right palm lightly, lightning crackling between her 5 fingers, while the burning prairie sword spun rapidly 2 meters away from her, emitting intense flames. Go! The thunder force sent the attack of the fire sword straight forward. Sikong Nan knew how powerful it was and hurriedly retreated. His battle boots stepped on the limestone floor and spun rapidly, almost dodging the attack of the spiraling break. The burning prairie sword flew past his chest armor, and the biting cold chi actually shattered the armor on his chest. With a pung sound, it exploded into the group of archers behind him. In an instant, 3 people had already died. Sikong Nan maintained his dodging posture, both his hands leaning back against the ground. His face was ashen. Lin Muyu, you audacious bastard! Men charge! The sound of galloping horses could be heard from outside. In the next moment, over 100 Divine Might Battalion cavalrymen had already charged into the Holy Palace. Each of them was wielding a 3-meter-long spear, and many of them even had the power of their martial souls on their spears. Seeing this, Zhang Wei hurriedly said, Lord Linji, be careful. The Divine Might Battalion's black-armored cavalry is known as the world's #1 cavalryman. Lin Muyu also knew the pros and cons, but he had no other choice. If he dodged, then the group of Holy Palace guards and instructors behind him would become the targets of the Divine Might Battalion's slaughter. Furthermore, Sikong Nan had brought the so-called evidence here, so he must have made thorough preparations. If the Holy Palace guards and instructors were killed, they would die in vain. They would definitely be accused of shielding a serious criminal. Buzz buzz buzz. The walls of the gourd swayed slowly around him, and the demonic noise blade continued to spin rapidly in the air. Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword that was spinning back towards him, and gripped it with both hands as he charged forward. In front of him, dozens of cavalrymen charged forward. The moment they got close, they all stabbed their spears into the walls of the gourd. The weight of the several hundred kilograms of war horses and cavalrymen, coupled with their high speed, brought about a powerful impact. Bam bam bam. The outer layer of the mystic tortoise shell was quickly broken through. Lin Muyu sidestepped and stabbed the burning prairie sword into the body of one of the cavalrymen. With a turn of his body, his do chi surged, and he slashed another cavalryman off his horse. However, his back was still pierced by another spear. What was even more ridiculous was that one of the cavalrymen and his horse directly rammed into Lin Muyu. Bam! The dull impact caused Lin Muyu to fall back to the ground. He raised his head, and another 2 cold lights pierced towards him. The protective do chi around his body instantly collapsed, and he had no time to react. He quickly raised his hand and shouted, Entanglement of roots! Green vines rose from the green stone floor and wrapped around the hooves of the cavalrymen, forcing them to trample on each other. However, it was of no use. Endless cavalrymen continued to charge in from the outside. We are here to capture the serious criminal, Lin Muyu. You may kill him on the spot. Sikong Nan shouted from the back of the crowd. It seemed like he also knew that it was almost impossible to capture Lin Muyu alive. He knew that he was no match for them, but he had no choice but to fight. Lin Muyu forcefully activated his Do Qi and steeled his heart. Suddenly, he bent his body slightly, and a blood-red energy surged around his right fist. Right at the moment the dozen cavalrymen of the God Might Battalion charged towards him, he suddenly punched out. Chaos of all lives. Pung! The sounds of explosions did not stop. The dozen cavalrymen were either dead or heavily injured. Even the war horses were whining and falling to the ground. No. It can't be. Zhang Wei and the group of instructors watched with their mouths agape. They all knew how strong the God Might Battalion's cavalrymen were. To think that Lin Muyu was able to kill so many cavalrymen with a single strike. This was a realm that only a Saint Realm cultivator could reach. At this point, Lin Muyu was already riddled with wounds. His left arm was pierced by 2 arrows, and his shoulder was riddled with 7 to 8 spear wounds. These attacks had pierced through his skin and muscles, but did not reach his bones. After all, the Dragon Forging Remnant Scroll had already forged his bones to be as indestructible as the bones of a dragon. He was no longer as weak as before. But right at this moment, an invisible force suddenly descended, causing Lin Muyu to be unable to move. "How dare you, criminal? Do you still want to resist?" A cold voice could be heard. Lin Muyu's body was covered in blood as he raised his head to look outside. Under the light of the fire, a skinny figure slowly walked over on the green stone floor. Every step he took seemed to add a layer of restraint to his aura, causing Lin Muyu to feel as if she was trapped in a net of thousands of threads, unable to move. Pu Piu. Another 2 arrows pierced into his chest, causing him to feel an intense pain. Lin Muyu wanted to resist, but he was completely unable to do so. "It's the Divine Overlord. The Divine Overlord is here." The group of instructors was dumbfounded. Some of them even knelt on the ground and greeted respectfully. "Greetings, Divine Overlord." Zheng Yifan was the most famous person in the Imperial Army. In the eyes of the soldiers, he was like a god, and his status was even higher than that of the Emperor. Zhang Wei clenched his fists and rushed forward despite his injuries. He stood in front of Lin Muyu and looked at Zheng Yifan with a burning gaze. "Divine Overlord, let's talk this out. Lord Linji is definitely not a criminal." Zheng Yifan smiled faintly. "Zhang Wei, how do you know he's not a criminal?" This question stumped Zhang Wei, causing him to freeze on the spot. "Guards." Zheng Yifan's voice was extremely calm. "Put the beast binding shackles on Lin Muyu." A few soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion walked forward and used a strange-looking chain to bind Lin Muyu's arms and legs, making it even more impossible for her to move. "Take her away." Zheng Yifan flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. But right at this moment, another powerful aura spread out. Lei Hong slowly walked out from the inner hall, his voice loud and clear. "Brother Zheng, how long has it been since we last met? You came to the sacred hall and left without even saying a word?" Zheng Yifan turned around and smiled. "Brother Lei Hong, I'm actually not here for anything important. I'm just here to capture a kid who's been on the run. Since he's from the Divine Palace, I'll take it as greeting you." "Brother Zheng, are you saying that this Lin Ji is Lin Muyu?" Lei Hong smiled. "Even if he is, it's not that big of a deal. It's just that Lin Muyu is someone entrusted to the Divine Palace by Princess Shi of the Seven Seas Tang sect. He has the Tang sect's iron token, so I'm afraid you won't be able to take him away today." "Is that so?" Zheng Yifan looked at Reiham and didn't make any movements. However, the bluestone bricks under his feet exploded one after another. A monstrous and invisible aura spread out in the surroundings and headed straight for Reiham. Bang! An invisible wave of air exploded in front of Lei Hong. Lei Hong's beard swayed slightly. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Zheng Yifan with a smile. His own aura also spread out rapidly. The 2 Sacred Realm experts were fighting with their domains. Everyone was dumbfounded. The group of instructors was dumbfounded. They knew that Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan was well versed in the art of war, and was the Empire's god of war. But they didn't know that Zheng Yifan was so strong that he could even compete with the Lord of the Divine Palace, Lei Hong. "Disperse!" Reiham suddenly shouted. Zhang Wei immediately seized the opportunity to grab Lin Muyu's rope and dragged him into the inner hall. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Divine Might Battalion behind Zheng Yifan also dispersed. No one wanted to be caught in the crossfire. Pa pa pa. Under the pressure of the domains, the walls around the hall began to crack and peel off. The invisible aura collided and wrestled with each other in the air. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were charging at each other. The water in the pond jumped up, and the laws of space in the hall were distorted by the confrontation between the two experts. Bang! There was a loud noise and the airflow rushed to the surroundings. Zheng Yifan's body trembled slightly. He said with a livid face, "Brother Lei Hong's cultivation has improved again." Lei Hong's face turned even paler. He said indifferently, "Brother Zheng really hid his strength well." At this moment, an unusual noise came from outside. A man in a white robe rushed in with a long saber in his hand. His face was full of anxiety. It was none other than Feng Jixing, Grand Deacon. When he saw Lei Hong's complexion, he felt a chill in his heart. He had never seen Lei Hong so weak before. Zheng Yifan said coldly, "Commander Feng Jixing, what business do you have here?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Divine Marquis, the letter from Yu from Silver Fir City and the conclusive evidence collected by Chu Huaying of the Imperial Guard showed that Hua Tian's death was self-inflicted. His Majesty has already pardoned Lin Muyu. This is the pardon written by His Majesty himself." Zheng Yifan didn't even look at it. He turned around and said, "General Feng is really capable." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.